Good afternoon, everyone. I guess it's not quite afternoon. Welcome to the feature race of the Alabama 500, brought to you by RC2 Race Promotions, 5-Star Realty Group, and Kelly's Custom Engraving. We are on our second day of coverage, and last night we had a fantastic display on the track with two duels. One was a little more reserved, one was a little bit crazier and competitive, but you know what? It was all building to today. So for Ghostfire Media, I'm Josh Laston, and with me is Mr. Larry Patrick. Larry, are you as excited as I am?
Josh, you hit a nail on the head perfectly. Last night, we got both different styles of racing. We got one that was fuel mileage. We had one that was just pure chaos, and both of them in their own retrospects was absolutely amazing to watch. It's going to be really interesting to see now that we got all these cars on one track, which of the styles kind of dominate. We're looking at, I believe, about 40 plus cars here today. A bunch of teams represented with Guardian Esports, Limitless, NSLR or RL, excuse me, and then a bunch of guys that are on their own teams that are just, kind of communicating amongst each other. So should make for an exciting day. 500 miles at Talladega Motor Speedway. There's nothing more exciting than Talladega and these cars going bumper to bumper around here.
Yeah, it's going to be a great race. I'm expecting it to be a little bit calm for probably the first half of the 188 laps. But once we start to get people spread out, different pit strategies, I'm looking forward to seeing, are people going to kind of keep it calm until the tail end of the race, or are we going to start seeing people jockeying for position early and try to pull away, get that gap, and make it to where we've only got about 5 cars fighting at the end? But it's Dega, so anything can happen. One caution can throw off any planning that you had and truly just bring on the chaos.
Yeah, Josh. I mean, when you're looking at it, like I said, you got 40 plus cars out there. You really kind of get into that mindset of, some guys are going to want to be strategy. They're going to want to drop to the back of the field to try to, have more time to react if there is an accident. So that you're going to see guys that may want to drop back, and then you're going to see some guys that are going to feel more comfortable up front. Well, the guys that are up front that are leading the laps are going to waste more gas. It's going to be a fuel mileage race. No matter that, people are going to be coming in with strategies, right? Your first pit stop could dictate your entire race on how you're going to pit. So that's going to be a key factor in this. I think if you're kind of midfield, to me, that was always that shaky part, right? I mean, if you're in midfield, you're just kind of hoping if the wreck happens, it happens behind you. So it's definitely going to be interesting. We hope for a lot of excitement. We also hope for that excitement not to happen too early. I think that if you can get all 40 of these cars the last lap, on the lead lap, that's going to put a lot of fireworks out there. At least the last 10, right?
That very much is. I've got it focused right now on our Duel 1 winner, Mr. Matt Dula, who is going to get to lead us to the green. We'll see if he has that opportunity to really get himself in the right position, hang on towards the front, and then we have Ambrose Nebel, which I found out that we were it's Knebel.
Knebel. See, I wanted to say that, but I felt like, any other words, the first letter is normally silent, so I just kind of went with Nebel.
And I got a message this morning correcting us, so Knebel, to where he said it's kind of like Evel Knievel, and I was just like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But he was our winner last night of Duel 2, which turned into a fuel strategy race. He barely made it across the line with fuel to spare. And one of the things that was going on in the chats this morning was we ended up, because it turned into a fuel strategy race, we had some people that were ultimately a lap down running with the lead pack. And some people were thinking that they should have moved off to the side and let the leaders battle it out. But I have to look at it this way. everybody that managed to barely make it across the line owes a debt of gratitude to those people that were a lap down. They pitted, so they had the fuel to make it to the end, and they actually pulled them along, and we covered that kind of ad nauseum last night.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of brought that into retrospect before it happened. It's a strategy that I stated before last night. I mean, I used on Monday. Me and a couple of guys used that those lap cars, or they're the first car that would have been a lap down had the leader passed them. They were on full fuel because they did have to pit. So that gave the guys that were trying to conserve, I believe, our top six. They were able to sit back and run about 3/4 throttle to, even almost half throttle and conserve a lot of fuel. So that actually got them to the end. Me as a driver, if I'd have been in that situation, I would have, right away told the guy up front, hey, just pull me along, please. Let me get to the end. I don't want a chance going out of that top 19. But as we stated, slippery slope, tricky situation, just because of the fact that we did have 19, 20, and 21st position. They were racing for that top 19, so that could get a little bit hairy. But I mean, as a leader, I mean, that's the choice that you have to make.
Well, and that's kind of where I pop myself into the conversation that, in all honesty, the duels, yes, we had $25 on the line for the winner of the duel. It's not an insignificant. Basically, they get their entry fee back plus a little bit, but I'm only really worried about making sure I make it to today. Now, today, if somebody pulls that stunt, yeah, I'm not going to be very happy about it. But again, that's what it all comes down to, is making it through to today. Those guys that were a lap down fighting it out, 2 of them didn't make it. So at the end, they've got to run their race and do everything they can to make sure that they can have that shot at the $300 for our winner tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you wanted to make it into this race. We heard it with Kevin Haas last night. His whole strategy for that race, ensure his position into today, right? I mean, yeah, $25 is nice. That $300 today would be a lot nicer, right? So
yeah.
and as much as that is, anybody out there and watching right now that does race, anybody that is racing, they'll tell you that as much as that $300 is nice as well, then bragging rights are even better. I mean, you love going into a situation and say, hey, I took the 500, especially a Talladega race. So you kind of got to look at it in those manners. You just kind of wanted to get into today. Some guys, they wanted that $25. They got that $25, which is awesome. I just wanted to make mention that, we talked about they lined up, but we had the 39th and the 40th position that were going up to provisional spots. So in the 39th spot, Matthew Baker received it for the fastest qualifier to not lock in. So unfortunately wasn't able to get in through the duels, but because he was the fastest qualifier that was not locked in, that's gonna got him in here to today. And then going into the 40th, it's gonna be Kyle Benson, and he's getting the provisional for the highest I rating to not lock in. So those guys, good for them. They're getting that. How do you want to put it? That second chance at life here today. And I definitely think that we'll see these guys move to the front. I mean, one of them the fastest qualifier to not lock in, and one of them to the highest I rating. That says that he races really clean and he's really fast. So I definitely expect to see those guys up front.
Well, and that's the biggest thing is that any racer will tell you that Talladega, it's a bit of a wild card. It's a little less on the skill side, and sometimes it's a little bit more luck. That you can be in the exact right position, you could be the best driver out there, but if you happen to be next to that one person that gets a little too much of a push, gets themselves a little loose and causes the big one, you're just in the wrong place, wrong time, and no skill is actually going to be able to prevent that one from happening.
Yeah, you really got to, kind of like you're talking about, just avoiding that big wreck. If it does happen early, you don't want to be involved in that big wreck. Kind of be cognizant who's around you. Not that you're looking at anybody and saying, hey, I need to be a little bit more timid around this person, but knowing that if somebody's side drafting off of you, you got to be a little bit more stable. You guys could it could create a suction between two cars, bring them together, and if it does at 200 miles an hour, somebody's going somewhere, and that's not straight. So that could cause an issue, especially with this big, how tight this pack gets. Paying attention to your runs, because if you come off these cars maybe about 2 car lengths going into a corner, you might get a monster run, and then when you're coming out, if you're not cognizant enough to not tap that person in front of you and hit them square, it's going to send them around, which is going to cause you a big issue as well.
All right, it's time for us to go ahead and get this race underway. Our starting lineup for the afternoon is, our pole sitter is Matt Dula after winning duel number 1. Ambrose Knebel is second after winning duel number 2. Ryan Johnson in third. Steve Loving in fourth. Andrew Cootie in fifth. Kevin Haas sixth. Then we have Garrett Maines in seventh. Chris Akers eighth. Vincent Guerrero in ninth. 10th is Craig Lawton Slaughter. 11th, Brandon Holder. And 12th, we have, I got lost, TJ Rogers.
In 13th, we got Tristan Bailey. 14th, Cody Nagles. I hope I didn't pronounce his name wrong. I wish you would have corrected me today. Nagels? See, that sounds better. Thank you. In 15th, we got Kenneth Bishop. In 16th, Christopher McCullough. In 17th, Jeremy Stanley. In 18th, Kenneth McCullough Jr. In 19th, Paul Witt. 20th, Braxton DeWeese. In 21st, we got Colton Zimmer. In 22nd, David Grantham. In 23rd, we got David Logston.
Dustin.
Excuse me. Sorry. I'm losing my mind. Dustin Loxton. And in 24th, Andrew Santo.
And 25th, Jim Westerfield. 26th, Brad Neer. 27th, Dustin Saltier. 28th, Brandon Minnick. 29th, Jason Maines. 30th, Nash Brambilla. 31st, Julian Condi. 32nd, Mike Vano. 33rd, Daniel Holloway. 34th, Kyle Knapp. 35th, David Sheets. 36th, Randy Nichols. And rounding out the field, 37th, Austin Reedy. 38th, Cade Green. 39th, Matthew Baker. And 40th is Kyle Benson. So we are getting them stacked up 2 by 2 coming down the back stretch. These guys have a long race in front of them. So let's hope that they're going to be a little bit calm to start here. We don't end up with a chunk of the field missing after only a few laps. But it's going to be fast. It's going to be crazy. And it's going to be fantastic.
Talladega Motor Speedway, always exciting. A lot of close-knit racing going on. These guys settling in 188 laps, 500 miles. This is going to be an exciting one here today.
As we are seeing the pace truck make its way off, we'll get to the chopper to see this with a little bit of extra visibility as they're coming into the tri-oval where the restart zone is. So we have guys lined up ready to start pushing. The flag flies and we are off, and we're starting to see already that inside line is getting themselves up there nice, close, trying to get that push to make sure that they are in front of that outside line. The outside line is doing their job, trying to get formed up, but there's only 3, and they're a little bit farther spread out than that front 4 on the inside.
Yeah, you start looking through, as you're going through the field, you're seeing more cars on the low side, less cars on the high side. We kind of talked about this. You may see guys trying to get down. Go ahead, start getting into a rhythm, start clicking away some laps. 180 laps, a lot of time here. No need to go for the win here. You're not going to win this race in the first corner, but you definitely can take yourself out of this race as they're 3 wide coming through turn number 4. It looks like we will have Matt Dula is going to be leading your first lap here today.
And we are seeing these guys, they are seeming to want to get single file, just run their race, make sure they stay with the lead pack. but that low line is not leaving any space. The only person from that outside line that made their move down early was Kevin Haas, currently running in 5th. And that outside line, they're starting to drop because Andrew Cootie, he's given that amazing push that we got to see last night. He's making sure he's in that perfect position as we start to tick the laps away.
Yeah, we may mention, as you just said last night, Andrew Cootie, he has been given some monster pushes going through this track. It's definitely a guy that you kind of want to see there on the backside of you. Seems to be really good about it. It's not overly aggressive, but he can definitely get you through this track. I mean, just with a great push as they go. The high line right now, it is kind of breaking up a little bit. You got the 3 cars there on that high side, doing really well, keeping up with this front pack here on that low line, though.
And we're starting to see a little bit more of that outside line try to catch them. And the other person to keep in mind that honestly is fantastic in the push is the 31 of Garrett Maines. We saw it last night. He's another person that he's the person you want in your pack as you're trying to break away. As looking at the blimp view, they're trying, but right now we've got those 2 distinct lines. That outside line right now being led by our winner from duel number 2, Andrew Scannebel. He's trying to keep himself in touch, and honestly, he's in a great position. It's looking like the 31's going to jump out to join that outside line and has an amazing run using that draft that he had to get himself up there, but it looks like he's not quite going to have the speed because that low line, they are formed up as perfectly as they can be.
Yeah, as you kind of keep a lookout here, the high line's definitely doing a really good job. They're starting to build together. I just want to make mention that you're pretty much got all the cars there, but you got 2 packs forming, going all the way back to about 27th position. Then you have a second pack. They are pretty much all in a straight line here, as they're going to have to try to catch up to this lead pack, though. I mean, you're looking at about
they're close to
27 cars.
Where we're talking about a 4-second gap, we're focusing on the 96 of Austin Reedy. These guys have dropped off pace, and I'm not exactly sure what happened, but they need to get themselves formed up, get in the line, and he's getting a great push from the 12 of Kyle Knapp. And they need to stay in line as we see him slide out just a little bit. That may have been to get some air on that radiator because he was right up on the bumper and trying to get himself a little bit closed down, but it's stabilizing at about 3.8 seconds back. But let's jump back up to the front here. That outside line led by Garrett Maines, they're starting to drop away as Matt Dula continues to lead the race. And I'm thinking that low line, they're doing what they need to keep themselves at the front and in the exact position they need to just start ticking away the laps.
Yeah, right now, you're not seeing anything crazy aggressive. Guys are making the 2 lines work. Nothing wrong with that. Big enough track that you can have 2 lines.
You can go 4
these guys,
wide here.
Oh, well, I don't want to say you might.
You can. You should.
You can. Yeah, you definitely shouldn't. 3 wide, you can do it decently comfortable. So, but right now, I mean, with 2 lines, again, no crazy aggressive pushing, but guys getting out there. Again, Matt Dula so far still leading. I'm shocked that he is wanting to sit out here out front. Again, as we alluded before, he's at max throttle right now. He's reliant on the number 9 of Andrew Cootie to give him those pushes. We see a nice push coming here out of turn 2 as they go down this backstretch. Andrew Cootie all over the back of him, but that's what's keeping him up to speed with this pack. If Cootie drops him, if they just shuffled him out, he'll drop like a rock because that high line far enough back that they'll freight train him.
And that's the good strategy that we're seeing. These guys just perfectly comfortable running their race, just getting the laps away as we see a little bit of blinking coming from Ambrose Neville. And this is a track that blinking can be one of the scariest things. We've got 40 cars out on track, which is going to strain anybody's connection. And it's one of the unfortunate realities of running iRacing is you're reliant on everybody's connection being strong to make it to where you're comfortable being right up on that person's bumper.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. When you got this many cars, it's going to be taxing on anybody's system right now. Once you got, if you're all over the back of the car in front of you and that car disappears, you definitely get scared really quick because you don't know where that car is going at that point in time. You're just hoping that they're holding their line and not sliding around.
And we have been lucky that we only had one incident of netcode last night to where contact probably shouldn't have happened, but it's how the servers interpreted the moves, and we had a relatively clean race from a netcode perspective. But I'm actually going to jump back here. We're going to go onto the roll bar of Austin Reedy, and he can see that pack. He's not far enough away that he has lost hope, but we can see just ever so slight the cars in front. They're down under 3 seconds, and that's partially from the push he's getting from Randy Nichols and Ryan Johnson. These guys have formed up exactly like they need to. There's barely any space, so they're going to be able to get this pack as long as they can keep it going for just a little bit longer. They'll manage to join the pack up in front of them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And they're doing a fantastic job, as you stated, just staying in line. That's going to give them the greatest opportunity for success, right? I mean, when you're in line like that, you're getting the greatest arrow push between these cars, and that could help you get to these cars in front. The bigger that you, or the more cars that you have in line, the faster you're ultimately going to be. For instance, 6 cars will be a lot faster than just 3 cars that are in line.
But one thing to note with these next gen cars, if you can get a 3-car pack that knows what they're doing, you can break away. You can start to get that separation with only 3 cars, but there's only going to be 2-3 inches between those bumpers to be able to pull that off. And I'm looking in the chat, and Baker's mom is asking, we're going to be looking, we saw last night 40 laps is going to be about the maximum that these cars are going to be able to run, and that's if you're in the draft. The lead cars are probably going to be around 35 laps, but if we stay green, we're going to start seeing pits around between, I would say, lap 33 and 40 before everyone has made their first stop.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Josh. And there's going to be a lot of chatter on the radio, right? I mean, these guys, they are kind of separated off into teams through Discord. You don't want to come down into pit lane by yourself. You're going to be hung out by yourself, which alluded to it yesterday. Just exactly with the duels, that when you do come in, though, you are very reliant on your teammates that you come down to pit road with to make a solid pit stop as well. One guy that can screw that up could screw everybody up on the team, because then you start seeing gaps, and then everybody starts running slower as a result to that.
And as Larry can attest to, I am not the person you want to be relying on for that. But as we're looking here, Andrew Cootie has taken over the lead of this race to where Matt Dula has dropped himself back. He's currently running in 18th, but he spent the first 10 laps leading a line, so it's probably a bit of a strategy move, making sure that he is maximizing the number of laps he can have before he has to pit. And again, we're early into this race. We've got 13 laps in the books. As long as you're still with that lead pack, you're fine.
Yeah, as long as you're with this lead pack, I mean, this is where, again, we talk about strategy. The guys there at the very back, you kind of run that risk of losing the pack. Possibly what could have happened with these separate packs that are going through, right? I mean, I think we're actually like 3 separate packs now looking on screen. So you kind of want to just be with that lead pack. If you could be the tail end of that lead pack, you set yourself up to be able to react for any issues that happens with this big pack that you got going on, but you can still run with them. As we just see a car going around, coming out of turn 2,
and that's
we got two cars.
Track.
No
And
caution
the
yet. There's
there it
caution.
is.
Wow.
All right, that looks like that was Paul Witt and Dustin Salter. So let's go ahead, take a quick gander and see what happens here. I'm gonna say that was netcode. Like, in all honesty, somebody got up on the bumper, but it didn't look like it was close enough to really. And there's the 15. Oh, and coming in late. I'm not sure who that was. I think that may have been Colton Zimmer who ended up in that. So let's take a look and see if we can figure out who was the latecomer that just got the bad luck on that little bit, as they're trying to lock it down.
Ooh.
And yeah, that was the old
the
09 of Colton
Is it
Zimmer.
the 09? Yeah, you would be correct. That's a big hit. You see a lot of debris coming off that car.
And
That's definitely going to be. Josh, I got to know, because I'm not 100% sure. I'm assuming no fast repairs here today.
that is correct. So unfortunately, that kind of contact, that's gonna be the end of the race. And we're only 15 laps in, and we had some conversations after the race last night. It's honestly, if you're talking this kind of a race, if you're going to be taken out, may as well make it to where you don't have 150 laps invested before it happens.
You're absolutely right. This is the time, right? I mean, right now, 15 laps in of 188. This is going to be roughly around a 4-hour race. It's kind of what we're projecting. We did 50 laps twice yesterday. It took them about an hour per. So you're looking at close to about 3.5 to 4-hour race. So this is the time. If you're going to get wrecked out, I mean, or you end up out, this is the time. And I'll also just want to make mention that everybody's coming down pit road right now. They're going to come in. This helps everybody. They don't have to worry about doing a green flag stop. Obviously, a lot more stressful when you do execute a green flag stop. But these guys are going to come in, get out. Josh, right now, I got to know, in your opinion, we're seeing some guys are making some pretty fast pit stops. Tires or not? Would you take tires or not on this one?
Absolutely not. Right now, it's all going to be about track position, making sure you're with that main group. I would say myself, I'm not going to take tires until my third stop. That's me. I'm a little bit, we'll call it brave, as somebody decides to hit the cone and send it out onto the racing surface.
There is always somebody that has an affliction with the cone.
Somebody just doesn't. Somebody just is a murderer of cones in all situations.
It's just, I don't know what it is about drivers and cones, but they love hating that cone.
And you know what? We do see, as we look through the field, there's quite a few people that have taken tires. It looks like they may have taken all of them. But you know what? If you're mid-pack, I'll amend my previous statement. If I'm already mid-pack, I'm back with the group, I'm going to take the tires. But if I'm in the top 10, absolutely, I am going to just top off. 16 laps at Talladega. It's not going to be absolutely reliant on tires. Sure, you'll be a little more stable. But at this point, these guys, we aren't talking about slicing and dicing. You aren't going to be as reliant on your tires for anything other than keeping the car stable.
No, you're 100% right about that, Josh. I'm one of those guys that we did, find out yesterday, and within 50 laps, these guys were seeing some tire wear to the point the car was getting a little greasy coming out of turn 2. I like the stability. If I have the amount of tires that I can take, I'm going to take them. That's just my personal preference. I can tell you that in my opinion, when it comes to restrictor plate racing, it's going to be on personal preference. There's no right or wrong answer. Like you said, this is a a track you're reliant on other cars. It doesn't put as much strain on your tires. Derek did state, Derek Schilling out there stated he said no tires. For the fact that Derek said no tires, I would say that no tires is probably the wrong call then.
I firmly agree with that statement. I have run too many races in chat with Derek to trust him.
Hey, these cars are starting to line up 2x2 once again. Pace cars lights on the Chevy Silverado are off. So as they're coming out of turn 2, we are preparing to go back racing.
And just so everyone knows, Derek Schilling runs in the same league as Larry and I. Derek's an amazing guy. He's one of those people that even when we were broadcasting, he would text and drive. Granted, I think it was voice to text, but still. But no less, we are getting ourselves back to racing soon enough. And we made it 15 laps before we had our first caution. And honestly, it was netcode gods were not being friendly. I'm glad that we're running this after iRacing made some changes to how they calculated it, where netcode has not been nearly the problem on these kinds of tracks that it used to be 6 months ago. But still, sometimes they're angry gods.
You know, I just want to point out real quick for everybody out there, this is, you could call it a more or less like a super league. This is a lot of leagues put together to make this happen. A lot of different drivers. Love seeing all the different leagues represented out here today, and everybody out there that is commenting and rooting on their favorite drivers or their favorite leagues or their favorite teams. So really appreciate you guys out there. We hope you guys stick around for the full 400 today.
Or at least
500 miles.
You can take some snack breaks and some beverage breaks, but we are in the restart zone and we are going green, and it's looking like Andrew Cootie is not going to be the front car, but the 31 is separated from everyone else, and he's moving his way to that outside. You know what? For a single car, he's doing a fantastic job fighting as we see people trying to get down onto that low line. But Garrett Maines, he's going to be a sitting duck for some of those cars behind him. If they want to break away and go, they can, but they're using that momentum to give him an amazing push and try to make it to where that outside line is going to be fighting. And we're going to have bumper to bumper as we cross the line for the front two.
Yeah, you know, you're watching, and you kind of alluded to it. We mentioned it yesterday. These next-gen cars do a fantastic job at side drafting. Garrett Maines there by himself on that restart. He got that nice little gap. He did a wonderful job side drafting off of Andrew Cootie. As they're going to drop down that low line. They're going to get back into the lead here. And he did a wonderful job. That really helped that high line. As Andrew Cootie now pokes his nose, he's looking towards the outside.
And that's the right move. Let's go ahead, make it to where it was less about getting the run from on the outside, and that just made it, him going to that high line made it to where the front two cars were just that, two cars. They lost a lot of the draft advantage, which made it to where he's able to get himself moving, take advantage of that little bit of a run that the outside had, and we're seeing these guys, as we're seeing the 21 of Daniel Holloway drop down to that low line, leave them a little bit on their own, take his own momentum to the front of that low line, and see if maybe he's able to use what I would assume is a teammate in Chris Akers, given that they're both running Hershey brands on their cars.
Either teammates or they both really love Hershey's, chocolate. But you're right. It's been wonderful to see right here. It's almost like a game of leapfrog here between the low and high line. High line working absolutely wonderful right now. Andrew Cootie's really liking that high line, and we've seen it in the first duel yesterday. The high line was really using a lot of momentum coming out of these corners to get some nice runs down these straights.
And honestly, that's the best part about a Talladega, is if you have that extra momentum. The outside line, while it is a farther distance to run, it can be effective because it's progressive banking, which means you can go a little bit faster, use a lot less wheel, and make it to where you're scrubbing less speed off, as we do see Cootie go a little bit loose coming out of the corner. But at the end of the day, these guys, it's just a matter of keeping touch, as we are starting to see two separate packs form to where we'll jump back here. TJ Rogers in 23rd. This pack has lost a bit of the draft. They're just over a second, which is where it starts to wane just ever so slightly. You need to be about 8/10 to really take advantage of it, and it looks like they're able to do that, as there's a few cars, including our Duel 2 winner, Andrew Sknebel, losing, and being a gentleman as he's blinking, just making sure he's not going to take anyone out. But even then, we jump back to 32nd. Jason Maines, he's lost the lead pack. He's 3 seconds back, and this group really needs to tighten up to be able to keep touch, because we cannot count on cautions to be able to do that.
Yeah, right now you're looking at top 14 in their own pack by themselves. They are 2 by 2 heading down the front stretch, going through the tri-oval, coming through. Daniel Holloway will lead them to the to the line there, but they are running very nicely. Now, this could be a subsequent of two things. Either A, they're getting the stronger pushes, as you alluded to it earlier, Josh, that even 3 cars can run very strong, but you're going to have to be very close, bumper to bumper, to keep that momentum. And as we see here coming down this backstretch, that's exactly what these first 2 cars are doing. They are all over. The second car in line's all over the car in the front, right? So they're keeping up a lot of momentum. And I believe that second group, we're not seeing as much of that. And it's not as big of an issue right now, but you're kind of now relying on a caution to catch that front group if that front group's going to start walking away.
As we're starting to see, we've got 3 very distinct groups right now, as TJ Rogers is leading this second pack, and they're 2 wide. And these guys are getting racy, which they need to just go ahead, get formed up, get themselves, as they do move down to that low line. These guys, if they can manage to pull themselves together, get into a single line, they're barely under 2 seconds back from that lead pack, and that alone is enough that even though they're 2 wide in front of them, punching that bigger hole, as we see somebody
Kevin Haas.
That's
Kevin Haas gets a little loose.
And you know what? He managed to keep it there, and that's going to make it to where he's going to be freight trained by the second pack, but he is definitely lucky in this situation that there is this second pack that he's going to be able to link up with these guys, and hopefully they'll be able to pull him along to that front pack once again. And you know what? That's a great thing, but we go back to 30th. We've got another pack that's 4 seconds off of that second group, to where they're all on that back straightaway, but they need to get themselves back and truly working to get themselves up and fighting and keeping in touch before we get to the next round of pit stops that, I'll be honest, hopefully we're going green for.
And I want to say something real quick, Josh. We kind of aren't seeing it now. We did there for maybe about a lap, but that front group, they all started lining up there on that high side. To the point that they only had 2 cars in that low line. The second group, on the other hand, they maybe have 2 cars on the high side. Right now, I'm looking, and they are all in line on that low side. Now, that's still going to give them a nice run. They got a bigger group, but they can't rely on catching that front group based off the draft because they're running 2 different lines.
Well, and it's only 1 car on that outside,
and now as you see, they're gonna catch them because they're working together.
And that's exactly it. They're a second and a half off, but we're seeing an absolutely monstrous push from Kenneth McCullough, and that's what they need to do. Just do what they can, get themselves within that draft, and we will get to see them really making a run. And again, once this group catches the sniff of that draft, there's a wide open space right there in the middle. And you know what? If I'm the lead car in that, I'm going to aim for that space in the middle, and I'm going to go ahead and take it. We'll go 3 wide, and this group should be capable of pulling the entirety of this group through to the lead of this race.
I don't disagree with you there. So, I mean, it'd be a risky move, right? I mean, we stated you could put 4 cars wide on this. 3 cars, you know, it's still a little risky of a move, especially this early. That would cause a massive wreck. But what could also cause a massive wreck, because these guys are working so well with each other right now, is the fact that when they sniff that draft, they are going to come like a freight train on this front group, and they have nowhere to go other than the middle. Otherwise, they're all going to have to start checking up. And if one guy's lapse of concentration just happens, somebody might run over somebody else.
And that's what we should be expecting from Talladega, as we're seeing the outside line is now no longer the stronger line, but we are seeing 2 of the stronger cars that we got to see from the duels in Garrett Maines and Andrew Cootie. They have linked up, and they may be able to push themselves up there. But at the end of the day, if I'm in that front group, I'm wanting to keep these 2 lines, because if they drop down into a single line, as we're seeing some shuffling out to the outside, the more that these guys keep making these kinds of shuffles, that's given that second group that opportunity to get a little bit closer, maybe get to that draft. And suddenly we go from 13 cars fighting, and they are now into the draft.
Oh, we got a car get loose, ends up on that low line.
And that is Andrew Sanzo, and that is going to be the death of these 2 separate groups. That gives the back group just that little bit of a draft, little bit of a run, and make it to where they're now 6/10ths back, which means they've got the draft. So we now have 29 cars in this lead pack.
And they're freight training Andrew Sanzo. They just went around him. They're catching that high line like nobody's business. But look, right there, your front leader in that line, he stayed high. Everybody else is starting to drop low. So because of that, they've killed their own run as a gigantic group.
And you know what? They're with the lead pack. That at the end of the day, that's all that's going to matter. As we're seeing Kevin Haas, who had a little bit of an issue, he's now back in the hunt to get himself back up to the front. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, is making sure you are with that main group.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, your leader, Kenneth Bishop, in the number 4 car. He's running a nice line. They're on that low line. We're not seeing too much action from that high line. We got Andrew Cootie. He's trying to lead that high line. Alluded to it earlier. Cootie is a really extremely strong pusher. It's interesting to see him sitting in that high line. I believe that's Garrett Maines just behind him, and another strong driver. And he's giving them a great shove here, but they're going to try to make something work here. These 2 want back up front.
And again, we're early into this race. We've only got 31 laps in the books. We're on lap 32. Honestly, I'm excited to see that we're seeing 2 lines. It was what made the first duel significantly more exciting. But we're seeing now 2 people that are leading packs that this could throw off the fuel strategy, but it looks like the 9 of Andrew Cootie and Gareth Maines in the 31, are they going to drop down to that low line, or are they going to be the gentleman, knowing that it's the entirety of that outside line that has gotten them to the front of this race, to where now the front three of that outside line is we actually see the 6 of Cody Nichols. He's dropping down to that low line. He's wanting to take advantage of the runs that he was getting on that outside line. Maybe the low line is going to go ahead and push. But we're also seeing Matt Dula, our pole sitter, has managed to drop a little bit off of that main pack, and we're seeing a second group form up once again.
Yeah, I don't think you kind of, we were talking about it earlier. I don't believe that we're going to see Andrew Cootie or Garrett Maines drop down. They seem to really like that high side. We've seen it earlier. They were kind of leading on that group. As now we got a couple guys slicing and dicing from the top down. That'll help pull that low line as they're getting a run. But these two seem to really like that high line. They're making it work for them.
And you know what? I personally prefer having that high line, especially on, well, more on a Daytona, because it's a little bit more narrow. But especially here, it makes it to where you have more time to react if there happens to be a little bit of a bobble on that low line. As we're seeing Austin Reedy in the 96 manage to get himself up to the front. Will he be able to lead lap 34? Because Andrew Cootie, he's got a run, and it's looking like that low line 96 is getting a fantastic push from the 88. Will that low line be able to lead this lap? No, because the 31 of Garrett Maines, he is fantastic on someone's bumper.
Yeah, he really is. And the pushing that's happening up front here has been spectacular. You're not seeing anything too crazy. These guys aren't, making the guy in front of them loose, but they're pushing him enough that it's effective. And we're seeing that in that high line with Garrett Maines. He's really strong at pushing here on the number 9 of Andrew Cootie. But then we have the 88 there of Tristan Bailey. He's on the back of the number 96 of Austin Reedy, and he also is giving them some very strong pushes. So again, you're not seeing anything too crazy. This two-line racing is fine here, and they're making it work.
Well, and here's one thing that not many people take into account. In this lead pack, we have the top 22 cars. For the most part, we are 2x2, which makes those 22 cars a lot more compact, which makes it so Matt Dula running in 23rd as we see him just now coming into frame. It makes it to where we can have 22 cars in a smaller space, making it to where those rear packs, they aren't really going to be able to get too much of a draft, unlike if we had 22 cars single file.
No, you're 100% right about that. Right now, this 2x2 racing's not helping Matt Dula, Andrew Santo, David Sheets, Kevin Haas, Dustin Loxton. I believe Randy Nichols is part of this. Brandon Minnick, Jason Maines. These guys, they're in a third pack, just a little bit behind. They may catch that group. That might help that second group if you add in another about 7 cars to it. But you want that draft from the front and the back. You want somebody pushing you from the back, and you want the draft from the cars in front of you. So the fact that those guys are running side by side and shrinking their lines, not helping that second group at all.
Well, they're starting to get a little more single file with a lot of cars on that outside line in front. But I'm going to jump to the Kelly's Custom Engraving roll bar camera of Matt Dula, who is about 4 seconds. He barely has visibility of that front pack, and unfortunately right now he's seeing that gap grow to where it's over 4 seconds.
And that is such a heart-wrenching feeling if you're these guys, because you got to know there's nothing you can do. You've got the gas pedal to the floor, and you're not able to do anything, and you're not catching the guys in front of you.
Well, as we're looking back up in this front group and seeing there's a little bit of slicing and dicing as we see the 4 of Chris Akers dropping down to that low line. It's looking like they may be trying to get a little more formed up on that low line, see what they can do to catch this front group, as rather than it being about 8 cars at the front and that outside line right now, we're seeing it shrink down to where Daniel Holloway is at the front of that low line, and now there's only about 6 cars in front, and that's going to tidy things up, make it to where, again, that gap to Matt Dula is now almost 5 seconds.
This is the type of racing, if you're a driver, that you want to see here at Talladega, though. Nothing crazy, nothing too aggressive. Again, the pushing has been very strong, but it's not overly aggressive. And it's leading to these nice little green flag stints as these guys are coming through here. If you're that second pack, you're rooting for a caution at this point. The third pack's caught that second pack. I've been keeping an eye on it. Jason Maines and these guys, they've caught them. But now they're starting to split to a second line already. That's not going to help their case. They need to get behind these guys. It's actually the 1M of Jason Maines kind of leading that group. They're trying to freight train this group. That's not what they need to be doing. They need to get in line.
Well, on the bright side, we are coming up towards where we're going to start to see some people thinking about pitting. And green flag pit stops are going to separate even that front group up just a little bit, depending on who decides to come in when. And ultimately, if you have a fantastic stop, you can make up some of that gap. But now we're seeing these guys are about 6 seconds off of the lead pack. So it's going to come down to strategy. But before we hit our pit stops, we're going to go ahead here from RC2 Race Promotions and their upcoming league that will be starting on July 11th. That will be on Ghostfire Media, the North-South Racing League.
Let's do this! Are you ready for a comeback? Are you ready to fly? Are you ready for the moment? Get ready to ride. Calling all the fighters, calling on survivors. Are you up all nighters? We can take it higher. Let's do this! Hey! Let's do this! Hey! Let's do this! Can you feel the fire running through your veins? Now you're burning brighter. Don't look away. Shout out to the legends, rising from the wreckage. Count down the seconds. It's out your engines. Let's do this. Hey! Let's do this. I know we've got a long way to go. I know we've got a long road home. I know we've got a long way to go. Let's do this. Are you ready for a comeback? Are you ready to fly? Let's do this. Are you ready for the moment? Get ready to ride. Let's do this. Oh, you know we're gonna do this. Oh, you know we're gonna do this. Let's do this. Let's do this.
All right, we are back. I will be the first to say I'm sad that I end up in the booth for the North-South Racing League. I absolutely love the street stocks. Working with these guys, it has made me miss running them. I would love to run the series, but I'll actually admit that it's a whole lot more fun to call it because the guys are fantastic. There's quite a few in the race today from the North-South Racing League, and I'll admit I joined practice a few times just to see where I would stack up, and I was rear mid-pack. But again, the league will be starting back up again come July 11th. I'm pretty sure the final of the qualifying races is tomorrow. So check out RC2 Race Promotions on Facebook to make sure that you know where to go if you want to join. Trust me, the racing is absolutely fantastic. But as we are on lap 45 of 188, I want to go ahead and check back in. This second group, led by Jason Maines, has managed to get themselves formed up, and while it was 6 seconds before we took that break, they're down to 4.5 seconds because they are in line and moving, because Matthew Baker is giving just the best push that he possibly can in that Chevy to try to get himself up and get them back with this main pack, because as we are approaching the pit window, the smaller the gap that they are capable of doing or having when we hit pit stops, the more likely they have of getting back with this main pack, as we're actually starting to see a little bit of chaos going up towards the front here, as we're seeing some 3 wide action, and that's creating a little bit of a separation from that back pack that's going to give them that opportunity to start closing up, because Jim Westfield here in the 35, he is a little bit off the pace and closing it up. But really the bigger thing is Kyle Knapp is off the pace. He's over a second off of that main pack, and that's going to provide just a little bit of an extra boost when the second pack gets to them. And I'm going to put my money on the fact that this front pack, everybody's going to start jockeying to get themselves down on that low line so they are not hung out when we get to pit stops, because it's looking like people are going to be taking them at full speed in the very near future.
Yeah, you kind of alluded to it earlier, Josh, that roughly around 40 laps. The pit stops you were saying is about 40 laps. Unless you're leading, you could be roughly around 5 laps less than that, so around 35 laps. So if you're Andrew Cootie, he's been up in the front for a very long time. I would imagine he's got to be getting to that point of thinking, I need to get down, I need to get ready for this pit stops. They stopped at lap 15, we're at lap 48, so 30 laps. I definitely think you'll start seeing guys' posture and stuff like that. As stated earlier, this is the time that it can make or break your race, because if you make one mistake, a speeding, going down pit road, speeding, entering pit road, anything of the sort. We seen it yesterday. A guy missed his pit stall, backed up too far in the pit stall, and then finally got in the pit stall. That's valuable time lost in this track when you're reliant on other cars in the draft.
Absolutely. As we're pulling up the stint length, these guys are on lap 33 of this stint. So they are definitely coming up to the time to where they're going to have to be thinking about getting some of that Sunoco fuel. Maybe, I would assume, because we're looking at green flag stops right now, absolutely no tires, because you can't afford those extra 7-8 seconds to get the Goodyears changed.
So let me ask you this, Josh. If you were a guy or a racer right now that is not in comms with other drivers, other teams, you're kind of a lone wolf, so to speak, out there, how would you handle this? Do you just kind of pay attention to what everybody else is doing, listen, hopefully start hearing guys chatter over the radio of, they're about to pit, or do you just wait for them to start moving? And who do you pit with at that point?
Well, in all honesty, if I'm hearing over the radio, being that lone wolf out there, I'm going to be waiting to hear pitting this lap. Or these guys on the low line at Talladega, you have to start braking so early. You're going to be dropping down below that yellow line. Once we start to see those dashed lines there, you're going to be down before that point to be able to get yourself down from 195 miles an hour. I mean, actually, our leader just is clocking in. His top speed was 203. So these guys have a lot of time that they need to be able to brake to get themselves down to that pit road speed, which I think is 55 miles an hour here. It may be 65, but still, that's a whole lot of braking on cold brakes and a track that, you know what? I haven't touched that slow down pedal the entire night.
So now, another question. They're 3 wide right now as they're passing some lappers. Here's a kind of a wild question. Again, going back to that thought process, you're a lone wolf out there. You know you're going to try to pit with other people. What are you going to do? Are you going to take tires? Are you going to not take tires? If you are heavy on the brakes, you take the chance of flat spotting your tires. So sometimes that might lean you towards taking tires. What would you do in that manner? Because if you go and you slam on the brakes, you decide not to take tires, but everybody else that's pitting with you does take tires, you're not at the disadvantage, right?
I am going to be that person. Again, me, Talladega, it's fuel only. As we're seeing the front 3 drop down to that low line, my guess is these guys are going to be thinking about that pit stop. I don't know if it's going to be this lap, but they're getting themselves in.
We got one going on that yellow line. Oh, nope, decides not.
That was just a little, I think that was just getting a little squirrely, but that makes it to where we see separation. These front 2, we actually have our first round of takers to where Jason Maines in 22nd is the first person on pit road, and we're about half of the field has made their way down to pit road, so we know it's coming. It's just a matter of when, and it looks like, again, half the field decides to take at that point. So
is there an undercut here, Josh?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
There is no undercut because fresh tires aren't really going to be making it.
The leaders are coming in. We got Cootie. We have Maines. You got 5 cars coming in here. You had a lot more cars come on that first round of pit stops as opposed to this one, though.
And that's the thing, is we're seeing those guys that manage to take and lead some laps make their way in at this point. But that's going to give Daniel Holloway the lead of this race, who has spent a few laps at the front of the pack. But most of it has been in the draft, so we're at lap 54. And we're starting to see a lot of cars making their way in to where the top 16 still have not made their pit stops. And it's looking like these guys are going to go ahead and get themselves out back into the race as we're seeing the next wave come in. And we've got about 7 cars making their stop. And that's much better than that last group coming off of the lead pack, because there were only about 4 or 5, but in all honesty, that 4 or 5 were some of the most organized to this point. And we're seeing green flag pit stops are making it to where these guys are going to get spread out. We're going to have a number of different packs rather than one large, as we're going to start to see some people truly end up making their way back off of the lead lap. We're going to see a bunch of guys that are going to end up, and now we're seeing the rest of this lead pack go ahead and make their way into pit stops. We're seeing
the 88 takes out the cone.
We're seeing
cones, on the brakes.
A lot of locked up brakes, but that group from the lead pack that that went down first, here they are, should take over the lead of this race, where Garrett Maines actually beats Andrew Cootie off of pit lane. But working together, bumper to bumper, these guys are going to cycle back out to the front of this race. And right now, everybody with the exception of Cade Green and Colton Zimmer, which apparently aren't showing up on my...
So Josh, hey, just real quick, I wanted to make a quick statement. So watching these guys come through on pits, I can confirm that Garrett Maines, Andrew Cootie, and these guys, they took 4 tires and fuel. I can also confirm that last group that just came in did not take tires.
And I'll be completely honest, here's the gamble that you take in these situations. If you're getting a full tank of fuel, you're only sitting for a few more seconds to get 4 tires, in all honesty. Sometimes it's beneficial to go ahead and maybe take right sides. It was a little bit more beneficial when if we look at the Gen 6s that had 5 lug nuts that they had to take off to be able to change the tires. But with this next gen car having the single lug, it really makes it to where sometimes it's better to sit for that extra 2 seconds, get all 4. But I'm also, again, a strange one that I know tires aren't going to be the biggest thing at Talladega, to where I'm going to take right sides, maybe no tires, to where I'm in and out as quickly as I possibly can. Does it make me weird? Probably. But right now, if we look at the track map, we have our 3 leaders. We have Garrett Maines leading the pack, Andrew Cootie in second, and Braxton DeWeese in the number 8, a car that we have not got to say too much about tonight. They've got a 3-car breakaway and nearly 3 seconds to Cody Nagels in 4th. But there's also a much larger pack back here. And these guys, if they can get themselves organized and get themselves as tidy as this front 3, because there's no other way to describe this front 3 than tidy. And again, green flag pit stops. This is where the true racers separate themselves, to where we had a very, very large pack before we got to the first round of green flag, and now our leaders, they're 3 cars. But
and you kind of
I was gonna say, this second pack that's about 3 seconds back, they are slowly getting themselves organized and at least maintaining the gap to those front 3.
And you alluded to it earlier, is what I wanted to say, that 3 cars that are tightly packed together can can create a gap. And we're seeing Garrett Maines, Braxton DeWeese, and Andrew Cootie, not in that order. They are running very tight together. Braxton DeWeese, he's got a nice push here on Andrew Cootie. And Andrew Cootie, is, we've said it once, say it again, one of the best pushers in this race. So we're seeing these 3 that can really run strong together. I think this second group might struggle a little bit to catch them.
Well, and they're going to keep coming up to lap traffic like we're starting to see right now, which means they're going to start picking up more and more cars, which, while they may be a lap down, that's going to extend this train farther and farther back and give that second group the opportunity to truly start catching them, because they're probably going to drop off the pace just ever so slightly, which is going to give them just that much more of a gap. And again, the more cars that are in line, the shorter the distance, and that's going to give them that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I mean, we're only 61 of 188, so we don't have to talk about, hey, let's pick up a lap car and let them, waste their fuel at doing this. But what this can do is you're seeing that second group, or that group of lappers there, they're able to get down. They are going to extend their line just a little bit. It's not going to be enough for that second group to grab them. But if that second group can help push this group, they could create a run of 5 now. Now that can help get them away from that group a little bit more. Right now, the gap between Braxton DeWeese and Cody Nagels is 3 seconds. So right now, they're not even sniffing that draft.
But it was 3.2 seconds, and now they're under 3 seconds. So if they can just, again, they're going to keep picking up those lap cars. It's going to happen because they are fast as 3 cars, as we're starting to see, again, a number of cars coming up to where, go to the Kelly's Custom Engraving roll bar camera, we can see, I think there's a post in the way, of course, but we're starting to see other lap cars just coming into frame that they will catch because it's only a 2-car pack. Eventually, they're going to catch them. They're going to end up tagging onto the back of this group. And again, 3 seconds when there's other cars amongst the pack, the farther that they go back, the more draft they get.
100% agree with that. And, you kind of look at what we have here. We have a bunch of little groups now. We no longer have, maybe 3 big groups, 2 bigger groups. You have a bunch of little groups. So I'm interested to know when you look at the, front 3, they're going to get caught by this second group. And that second group, they'll create another, again, bigger group. But once you get to Jeremy Staley here, Steve Loving, there's a nice gap. It's a 4-second gap to Jeremy Staley, David Grantham, and then Paul Witt. So you have a run of 3 cars there. That is 13th, 14th, and 15th. And then you have another 8 seconds back to Matt Dula, Brandon Holder, Kevin Haas, Brad Neer, Kenneth McCullough Jr. We got Matthew Baker in that one. David Sheets, Dustin. David Sheets would be the last car in that group. And then you have another gap between him and Dustin Loxton. So right now you're seeing a lot of different groups kind of building up. And it's really interesting to see on who's going to be able to catch who. I think you're right. I think we may see, we talked about that interval earlier. Braxton DeWeese right now showing a 3-second gap in building, 4-second gap in building over Cody Nagels. As right now, Garrett Maines continues to lead. Andrew Cootie just behind him. And then you got Braxton DeWeese, your top 3 cars. They're going to pick up another lapper here. And once they pick that up, again, that should help build their line just a little bit more. It's hard to say. No, I don't think they'll get it. They're going to freight train this next lap or 2. They start moving to the high side as just, again, cars, onesies and twosies kind of coming into effect here. But I think the big story here is your top 3 right now, 4.35 seconds out on Cody Nagels in 4th position and Damon Holloway. So they're starting to open up that gap over that second group.
Well, and that's a product of, again, they're going to continually catch lapped cars. So what ends up happening is they get the draft, which pulls them just that much faster. And as they collect more cars and create bigger trains, their draft is going to be just that much better.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, it is, as you stated earlier, that second group was starting to catch this first group. Obviously, these little runs of catching these onesies and twosies of the lap cars has really helped Garrett Maines and his group as they've opened that gap up now almost 4.4 seconds over that second group. If you're these subsequent second, third groups, I think if you're in the second group right now, you're okay. You're not mad about this. You kind of hope that there's a caution to bring you back up, but right now it's a wait and see game.
And again, we've got 188 laps. It could just be, but that these guys, they're going to be patient. As long as they can stay on that lead lap, they still have a shot. And it's Talladega. the farther we get into shuffling people around with green flag pit stops, the more likely it is that we're going to see someone do something that may not be the smartest thing. We're going to see somebody pushing a little too hard as they're trying to make their way up, close the gaps up. We can just start to see a little bit of desperation, because as we're seeing these guys that are 5 seconds off this lead pack, they're going to have to start closing that gap at some point. It's just a matter of when they decide to do it. And it's not necessarily going to be right now. It could be at lap 100 after we get the next round of stops, because we're seeing just about everyone ran 38 to 40 laps. And our front runners right now, they were on the short end of that stick. They're 15 laps deep right now. So are they going to stick with those shorter stints? Because it is possible for somebody to try and ultimately push as long as they can, cut out a pit stop.
Yeah, you kind of, with those smaller groups, that's also not a bad strategy. I mean, if the leader's losing 5 laps right now, I mean, would that be a good strategy at this point in the race? We're not even 100 laps in yet.
I know myself in these kind of situations, you know that green flag pit stops ultimately are going to be what causes a little commotion throughout the field. These guys, yes, they're out to a bit of a commanding lead, but if I can stretch those few extra laps, I'm kind of trying to run the numbers right now. It actually, with that early caution that we had, kind of negates the opportunity to cut a pit stop out, to where there's going to be a total of 5 pit stops tonight. There's no way around it.
Well, and right now, I mean, I think what you could do is you can start posturing yourself for a different fuel strategy, though, right? So you're still going to think cautions, anything like that. So if you could be the guy that got into the pits before a caution comes out, you may be a lap down. This is a big track. You may not even go a lap down if you're with this lead group. I mean, it just all depends, right? And that could set you apart from everybody else that has to come in and get that fuel and put you at the front of the pack.
And that is very much the case here. Is I'm looking at, to even it out right now, you're only looking at about 30 lap stints to be able to make it total of 5 pit stops after the caution. So these guys have 4 left. I don't think there's any way around it. So,
yeah, and you kind of, I mean, again, we're still early in this race. There's still a lot of racing to go. You need to concentrate right now on hitting your marks, obviously, for one, and hitting your marks with the pit stops. I think just your pit stops are going to be key still in this race.
Absolutely. Pit stops are always going to be the most important part of your race. Because even if you're coming in under caution, hitting the exact marks to make it to where that pit stop is as short as possible, it makes the massive difference. And sometimes, yes, you can sit and say that, okay, 0.2 of a second isn't going to make all that big of a difference. But you take that 0.2, multiply it over 5 stops, you're a full second off.
That's a really great point there, Josh. I mean, I think that's, you stated something that's very understood and not generally thought about.
Unfortunately, I'm one of those people that'll lose 3-4 seconds a race in a pit stop. So unfortunately, it's at the top of my mind.
You know what? You said it, not me. I wasn't even going to make fun of you about your pit stops tonight.
You know what? I'm very much okay making fun of myself for pit stops because I've improved. At least I don't run into barrels coming into the pits.
You know what?
And it's one of the things I like about Talladega because there aren't barrels to run into. You're just going to go through the grass, maybe get a speeding penalty, unsafe pit entry, you know. That's at least acceptable because you're only losing like 40 seconds in your stall for the penalty rather than your night being ended because you decided to put a little bit of extra yellow on the front of your car.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to these second groups right now. Just a quick update. Braxton DeWeese, our third place driver, he's got a 6.4 second gap over Cody Nagels. So that gap continues to grow. And I want to give a quick shout out right now. The mover of the race right now, Austin Reedy, he's up 29 spots to 8th position.
And he was one of those people, he barely got into this. But you know what? Honestly, again, that's the big thing about these duels and why, while I am appreciative of how the first duel ended, my mentality would have been more with the second duel of, I just got to survive to make it to tomorrow. And he's showing exactly that mentality. I'm running back. The top 15 spots are going to get some form of a cash prize today. So he's
how many did you say?
The top 15.
Oh, well, that'll be nice.
So if nothing, it was $20 to enter this race. These guys that we're looking at in this second pack, they're at least going to get their entry fee back and have had a good time over the course of the weekend. I mean, in all honesty, $20 for these kinds of races, I'm actually, again, unfortunately, if I was not in the booth, I would be out there on track today because I do love super speedway racing. It just doesn't like me. But in all honesty, I love watching it probably more than I do running it because, in all honesty, this is some of the most pure form of racing, and said it earlier and I'll say it again, it's a little bit more on the luck than the skill. Don't get me wrong, these top three that we're looking at right now, Garrett Maines, Andrew Cootie, and Braxton DeWeese, there's definitely skill behind why they are in the position they are.
100% agree with you on that one. Right now, because of these guys, it's definitely a lot of skill that they're showing. And that skill is the push, right? The draft, understanding the draft. There are some people, we say that this is the ultimate equalizer when it comes to racing. But I promise you, there's people that understand this style of racing better than others. Understanding how to put themselves in positions, understanding on pit stops, strategy going through this. This race right here is definitely the fine details of what you do is going to make or break your race.
And that's why I am the first to admit that I was an open wheel racer before I joined iRacing. I love road specifically, but it was once I started joining some of these super speedway races in the sim, it's when I started to fall in love with oval. It's yes, there's skill, but it's a mental game. And as we're seeing, we're joining what is the third pack out on track that is led by Jeremy Stanley, followed by David Graham, Paul Witt, Christopher McCullough, and Jim Westerfield. These guys have been closing down that gap to that second pack to where they're under 4 seconds. They were about five laps ago. But they're slowly closing that gap. And once they're capable of doing it, that's going to make it to where that second group is a little bit stronger. Right now, Cody Nagels at the front of this pack is coming up on 8 seconds back, but it's just because that front group now has enough cars with the addition of lappers that they've got the strength. They don't need to be right on everybody's bumper to be able to still be running absolutely just, they're running at about 190 miles an hour, whereas the front of that second group is about 2 miles an hour slower.
And that's a big difference there. That 2 miles an hour can definitely make or break a straightaway speed. We're blessed to be joined now by Robbie Clavey. Robbie, I hope I pronounced that right. You actually help organize this, man. What are you seeing out there? You're running race admin right now. And how do you feel like this race is going along?
It's been going pretty smooth, I think. I figured this was going to settle in and go for a long green flag run, but I was definitely not expecting the field to get this spread out. It's been interesting watching the second pack trying to get ahead of steam. It seems like they're able to start making a little bit of headway, and then something happens and they fall back a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as this thing pans out. You know, we've got a $10 payday coming up in about 15 laps for the halfway leader. So we'll see if the top three decide they want to mix it up and try and go for that, and maybe that'll allow the second pack to make up a little bit of ground. But so far, I think it's been pretty good.
It definitely has, and as we're gonna jump back, this third pack that we have currently led by Jeremy Stanley, they've been closing up on that second group, and I think if they're capable of catching that second group, it's only going to make them that much stronger, and we're going to start to see them close the gap down. But unfortunately, I think they're going to catch them right as we hit the next wave of pit stops.
Yeah, and that'll definitely throw a wrench into things. You know, you can have the most well drawn out plans of how you think things are going to go, and then something's going to come along and just destroy them. So, you know, at some point somebody's going to get desperate, and I highly doubt we're going to run the next 106 laps under green flag conditions. You never know with pit stops coming up. So I think there's still a chance for things to get mixed up, but it's definitely been interesting watching all the comers and goers as well.
Well, and as we say that, this middle pack, for some reason, somebody decided to get racy and take it too wide. So that's going to slow them down quite a bit. And again, let that third pack kind of get up there to where we've got an outside line forming up that's being led by Ryan Johnson. Now they've got them a whole lot clearer in their sights. And again, we're coming up on the pit stops to where we're looking, our leaders, they're about 10 laps away. So if we can start to see who has the concentration to be able to get into their pit stall and back out as quickly as possible, that's going to make or break a lot of people's races today.
Robbie,
Yeah.
I got a quick question for you here. The RC2 promotions, can you tell us a little bit about that, and what's your motivation for putting this on was?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just a guy that loves iRacing and loves event planning. And for 6 years, I planned the fundraiser for a volunteer fire department in my hometown. And when I moved away, I was looking for something to do that kind of related to that. And I put together a street stock event in May of 2021, and it seemed to go over really well. Then I partnered with YouTuber Eric Estep to put together the Groovy Hollow 200 last Halloween at Hickory. It was a fun little event where we raised money for Children's Miracle Network, and we were able to raise about $6,500 for them. And we had some NASCAR drivers, Josh Berry, Spencer Boyd, Jordan Anderson come in and race with us there, and Josh Berry took home the race in that, took home the victory in that race. And planning this stuff, it's always been stuff that I like to do. I just like putting together events for people to enjoy, and this just came about probably the end of February, a bunch of us started talking about would we want to run an Alabama race, and the details started to come together, and the rest is history.
Honestly, I want to hear just a little bit more, knowing that you guys are also running a league. Is it nice to see so many leagues coming together and running this? And how proud are you that some of your North-South Racing League guys are doing so well with Braxton DeWeese up there running in that front group?
Oh, it's awesome to see people from all over coming in and uniting to run the event. You know, it's definitely a lot different than running the league. The league's the same every week, and with this, you know, there's always new things that comes up. But you know, I'm 100% being impartial with all my calls. You know, luckily, I didn't have a lot to do last night during Duel 1, but I can't sit here and say I wasn't a little excited when I saw Dula and Johnson come to the line and going 1-2. But obviously, it would be great if they were to finish up front. But whoever wins, I'm just happy that they're here. You know, I told all these guys in the drivers' meeting that without drivers, we don't have a show. So they are the real ones we have to thank.
And you know what? They have done an amazing job putting on quite the show for the inaugural Alabama 500. And honestly, all this green flag running just makes it so there's a lot of extra storylines that we have, and I can't wait for the last 15 or so laps to kind of see a little bit more aggression as we try to close this out and everybody's going for that big payday at the end.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting finish, I think, no matter how it pans out. I just want to give another shout out to Jeff Mathis and 5 Star Realty for hopping aboard and being our presenting sponsor. He was doing well last night in duel number 1 and should be in the race tonight, but his dogs ran into his sim room and unhooked his rig. So I feel terrible. I think it was like 2 to go and he was running 16th and his dogs ran in. So I feel terrible that he's not in the show, but thank you to him for helping us out and making this possible as well.
Oh no, that was one of those things that unfortunately I hate when it happens, but while my cats don't disconnect my sim rig, my cat loves to ram my throttle leg while I'm racing at the most inopportune times.
Is that your excuse for all your terrible pit stops?
Oh God, no! I'm just terrible at pit stops.
Hey, another question: Are we going to see some more of these full-length races coming from you guys? And we, to caveat off that, we did kind of already show the video for your series coming up. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that series?
Yeah. So I've been tossing around some ideas in my head for RC2 race promotions, and I kind of think we're going to focus on running 4 events a year across a multitude of facets of racing. We're going to run the Talladega race every year. I think we might move it back into the winter just to try and get a little bit better participation. But I definitely do want to run an asphalt street stock event, maybe an asphalt super late, asphalt truck event, and then I think a dirt street stock show would be good too. So we'll see. I mean, definitely a lot to think about. But the North-South Racing League, we've been around for 6 seasons. I came on as an admin after season 3. We're getting ready to go into our 6th season starting July 11th. And actually, it looks like we got some pit stops here. So I'm going to go ahead and quiet down and let you guys call the action.
All right, sounds good. Yes, as we're seeing our leaders make their way down to pit road, they're definitely trying to get down to speed. See some brake lockups, that's inevitable. But yes, our top 3 have made their way into pit lane. And this is where things are going to start to get interesting. That is going to give Daniel Holloway the lead of this race. And this is where it could get very, very interesting. to see if maybe these guys are able to get just that much better of pit stops, even though it looks like Braxton DeWeese and this whole group, it looks like Garrett Maines is going to be the first one off of pit road. Braxton DeWeese does not have the best stop, but it looks like he's still going to be linked up with this front group. And actually, one little bit of a wrinkle that we're seeing there is I'm seeing the one to where we're seeing another of the mains join them in pit road.
So I think that's going to be that domino, right? So I kept an eye on it, man. They all, again, took fuel 4 tires. So the big key here is because of Braxton DeWeese having just that slight little hiccup in that pit stop, having the second main there just behind, Cody and Garrett, that's going to help Braxton DeWeese pull up. That's going to give him 4 cars. He should be able to get a little sniff of that draft, and we shouldn't see. Well, and as I say that, I don't think he will. Pace. I think he did miss it.
And if I'm in that front group, there's a small part of me that's going to think, is it better to have Braxton with you? Maybe put someone off pace, but no, we've definitely, the big thing here is we have Garrett Maines leading this initial pit stop group. Andrew Cootie behind him, but he's got Jason Maines right there on the rear, to where Jason Maines was already a lap down. So go ahead, maybe sacrifice your own race just ever so slightly to be able to help teammate get themselves to the win, to where sometimes having that person, as Larry speculated, in the same room with you, I would just assume they're in Discord together, but make it to where you have that very trusted person alongside you.
Yeah, if I'm Andrew Cootie right now, I'm probably throwing a fit. I'm probably cussing a little bit. And I mean, we're still 93 laps. We're getting close to that 100 lap mark. But in my eyes from him, if I'm looking at this race the way he is, if we do go green the rest of this race, I'm at a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. The mains are going to continue to pit with each other. There is no way that Jason Maines is going to leave Garrett out there by himself. If I was Cootie, I would do everything I can to try to grab Braxton DeWeese, but that seems to be a thing of the past. He's going to run with the 2 mains. It'll be interesting to see if this affects him later in the race.
Well, and again, that is going to be one of those things that right now they're going to be frenemies. These 3...
I haven't heard that before. I like that.
They are, for the, I would say, the next 70 laps, they are going to be best friends. Because keep pitting together, keep that gap to where Braxton DeWeese has actually managed to fall. He's 10 seconds back after that pit stop. And right now, the 2 people that were with him, they're going to make their pit stop right now, which means he's got no one really with him. He's got one person that is a lap down, but we actually got to see last night, that's Randy Nichols with him. These guys are 2 people from the North-South Racing League. They run with each other weekly during the season. I would assume, as I'm going to go ahead and look at my team chats here. Oh, yeah, these guys are in cahoots right now. So he has his help. The biggest thing that every single one of these guys need to focus on is at least staying on the lead lap.
Yeah, completely agree with you on the lead lap aspect of that. Also knowing that there's more help coming. Steve Loving, Paul Witt, and Ryan Johnson, they are only about a half a second back from Braxton because he's got a teammate out there to help him. They are going around 2 cars. here you go. You're starting to see it. They're catching them. They got a bigger group coming behind them. They're going to build a nice group. As right there, Braxton DeWeese tried to jump just in front of Steve Loving. They're going to leave him out there, but a lot of shifting right there. That is getting wild. 3 wide heading into turn 3.
But this is going to be a massive group that once everything kind of settles down, that run that back group had, ultimately, once we get ourselves to single file, as we're seeing Braxton go down to that below that yellow line, which that's
sketchy.
That's not the smartest move sometimes, but he pulls it off.
And still 3 wide heading into turn 1, going into turn 2. They are 3 wide. This is a really racy group. We had a massive group of cars that caught those guys very fast. And because they caught them so fast, they tried to jump to that outside. They were trying to not lose any momentum, and everybody started scattering. And now you've created a big group as they are 2 wide.
And that's going to be the problem, is the fact that they are 2 wide. Braxton DeWeese was running 3rd as we hit those pit stops. He's currently in 11th. But the one thing to keep in mind is right now, Austin Reedy running the front of this pack. He is the hard charger, which is a contingency for the night. He's up 34 spots still and currently running in 3rd. If these guys manage to really focus, realize how far they are from 2nd place, they're going to be able to really form up and catch what is still a 3-car pack at the front of this race, but only 2 are on the lead lap. If they can focus, get themselves together, they really can close this down, but it's going to require them to understand we're barely over halfway through this race. It's time to still work together with people that I'm racing for position.
Yeah, and I want to highlight a few drivers right now. We talked about it earlier that were able to grab those provisional spots and get in. Matthew Baker right now, he's sitting in 13th position off that provisional spot, having a strong run. And then we'll go back just a little bit farther. In 24th, Kyle Benson is showing. He was the subsequent receiving of the, I believe that was the 40th and final provisional spot. So just wanted to highlight our provisional drivers real quick. All of them still showing on the lead lap.
And we'll look at Kyle Benson right now. He is amongst a large group that is quite a bit ahead of our race leaders right now, that they may be able to hold on to this, stay on that lead lap, and try to fight, hoping that that caution's gonna make their way out. As, oh, we have a wreck. It looks like Kevin Haas may have had some issues. Let's take a quick look, and we're gonna rewind that just ever so slightly, because it looks like, oh, he was trying to get down to the low line and ends up getting a little bit of a bumper. That's a bad spotter call, and oh, catches some air into the wall, and chances are that's going to be the end of his race after that.
Yeah, you hate to see it for Kevin. Had a great run last night. Obviously just trying to keep his nose clean, knowing the way he drives. He just kind of wants to be there at the end. And rough move there. I mean, again, as you stated, probably a spotter calling clear, and the momentum of the 14 just, it was too strong, and it pulled him just slightly into the back of the 3.
And the problem is that's what happens when you don't have a live spotter and you're trusting those beautiful digital spotters, which are great for these kind of short races, but there is nothing that can be said about a live spotter able to really call those runs. And I'm looking at you, Derek Schilling, for not
You know, I just want
Being
to
a
point out,
spotter.
I was waiting for you to stop talking because I was literally going to say, looking at you, Derek Schilling. That was perfect. No, he's not saying you were the spotter, Derek. It was the fact that you are not the spotter. That's
You would have been able to call that one for it.
you would have been able to call. Well, I don't know. At the point that he didn't get what you were saying, he may not have been.
Yeah. But we're still looking at this second pack. And I'm not sure why these guys... It's probably the fact that we're still running too wide in the second pack to where it's only 4 cars up here at the front, and yet they're maintaining that 11-second gap to where Garrett Maines is in the second car, taking advantage of teammate running as a lapper to make sure he's got enough fuel. And he's given an amazing push, and we saw it in the duels last night. He is one of the people that I would want back there. And then Cody is another. We've got a 4-car pack that is managing to outpace a massive group behind them.
Well, and I absolutely love what they're doing right now, just kind of like you stated. The fact that the one jumped in front of Garrett Maines, so went ahead, he's taking the grunt, he's staying at full throttle. That's going to allow Garrett Maines and Andrew Cody to stretch their fuel as far as possible. Now, as you stated earlier, you're probably not going to be able to cut off a pit stop. That's okay. That's not what we're looking to do right now. What we're trying to be able to do, though, is if there is cautions, well, now there's a little bit more fuel for you. If there's extra laps, you may need that extra fuel. Any issue where you may come down to, like last night, those guys were crossing the finish line at with 0.2 gallons of fuel left. So the fact that they're stretching their fuel, and they're right now, that is going to be a move that will help these guys in the long run of this race to ensure they have the proper amount of fuel if we do go into extra laps. Or again, if cautions do start flying, they might be able to stretch their fuel for that remainder of that race.
Well, and the other advantage to how they're running right now is if a caution was to come out at this exact moment, gonna knock on wood so it doesn't happen, we are going to actually be able to see Jason Maines. He'll be able to get the wave around because he is still technically in front of these cars to where he'll be able to get one of his laps back. He may be 2 laps down because he is currently showing as being 29th, whereas the first car a lap down is Mike Vano, who is right behind this group. He's the first car a lap down. He's going to get the lucky dog, so he is in the perfect position. He's going to be fast because he's with the leaders. But Jason Maines actually is on the same lap as him technically. So if caution comes out right now, both of these guys are going to end up on the lead lap. So it's the perfect strategy. Not only is your teammate going to be able to get back on the lead lap and be able to help you fight for positions for both of you, but it's ultimately just you've got somebody breaking the air in front of you.
I tell you who this helps also. Now, mind you, we're still early. Think about it. 82 laps still to go. But Andrew Cody, I mean, at the end of the day, he wants to see this, especially when you get into those last few laps. And why does that say? You don't want the number 1 between you and the 31. Anytime you try to move, the one's not going to move. But right now, he can get to the leader. So in hindsight, this is really helping out Andrew Cody, and in the long run, this is what he wants to see.
Oh yeah, 100%. He is in the lead. He is in the lead pack. He's got 12 seconds right now. We'll jump back to Austin Reedy. These
3 wide.
And these guys are getting racy. And again, I'm looking at it as I'm coming over the radio and just being like, guys, we've got contact, and that is going to be the caution that we were hoping to not see.
But you know who that just helped? What did you just say? The 1 and the what is that? The 25?
Yeah, these guys, they're going to be able to
Incredible.
they're going to be able to get themselves around. But let's take a look at this wreck, and it's just a product of too many cars not being lined up, being a little racier than they should have. So these guys, it's the worst thing to where Jim Westerfield, he's going to have some damage to repair. He may be able to get the contingency of most laps or the highest incident count for a car to finish. But that collected quite a few cars to where that's TJ Rogers was involved in that, and it's not really showing anyone else as being wrecked according to the software. But without a doubt, that's going to close up this field. That's going to give Garrett Maines, he's going to get his pit stop. And if I'm being completely honest, that's going to make it to where we probably only have one more stop that we're going to have to do tonight.
Yeah, right now you're crunching numbers. If I'm these guys, I'm even thinking going in on, not that first lap, maybe the second lap, getting as much fuel as you possibly can, because you may only need one more pit stop. We've seen about 35 to 40 laps, as you stated at the beginning of this race. So with, we're looking at about, a little under 80 laps to go. You want to start thinking now. This is when you want to start playing fuel strategy. It definitely helps some guys out. It hurts a lot of guys. I think if you're in that second pack, if you're not involved in that wreck, you're sitting there saying, thank God.
Oh,
if you were involved in that wreck, you're extremely mad right now.
100%. These guys, this is going to make it to where we have roughly 79 laps once we go green.
And
one thing 77 is going to be when we go green. Divide that out. You're talking about that 38 laps, 39 laps that we were seeing on that first run to green flag stops. So, honestly, it's going to be, this completely changes this entire race.
What you're going to see in this next stint, and it's going to be a product of the way that caution just came out. You're going to see guys push that fuel mileage. Now, you want to push it because you want to have the max amount of fuel at the end of the race. You want to account for potential extra laps. So if you are running out and you want to wait till your spotter says, hey, you got one lap left, you want to chance it and get that fuel as far as you can down in that car to where you can cut this down to a one-stop race.
And I think it's going to be questionable, but I firmly believe it's going to be possible.
I tell you, a lot of guys are excited about that caution.
Oh, that second group, that was the lifeline that they truly needed. As we're seeing right now, there is a collection of people on the lead lap that were not before this point.
So I'm just taking a real quick look here, Josh. I believe it looks like the number 9 of Andrew Cootie may have gotten a speeding on pit road penalty.
Oh.
As right now showing in 15th position.
And 1 minute pit time.
Yeah, I'm just coming back and looking at it, and he's sitting in pit stall. So I have this suspicion that he did unfortunately grab a penalty there.
I can empathize with that because I absolutely, more times than I care to admit to, have had those. At least it seems like he managed to do it on entry to where you get to take the penalty when you're going into your pit stall rather than getting it on exit to where it's a drop to the end of the line, or you have to come in once we go green.
Yes.
That's where it really, really screws up your night, as we're seeing The lights on the pace truck are off, so what we're gonna see is these guys slowly make their way around from the lappers that are gonna get their lap back. And right now, 26 cars are going to be on the lead lap on this restart. So that is going to make this very interesting. And the two things that I'm seeing on this is Austin Reedy up 35 spots into second and starting on that outside line. We've got Steve Loving, who's back up into his original starting spot. Paul Witt back up. He's up 13 spots. He was in that second pack, and that is going to help him massively. We have Matt Dula, who started in the front of this race, back up into the top 10, back up with the lead pack. This, again, it's completely changing the outlook of this race. Matthew Baker up 29 spots and starting in 10th.
Off that provisional again, and we alluded to it earlier. I mean, grabbing that provisional, huge.
Yeah, and as we're making our way back around, the number of people that have managed to be saved by that caution, while it was unfortunate, but it also makes it to where the strategy to close out this race is going to just be amazing to watch. As
you know what that just did, Josh?
With on a lap 112.
You know what that just did? That just brought both duels into effect for today.
Yes.
Fuel strategy and chaos.
As we're going green, and Garrett Maines is going to get a little bit of a jump, and that's not what you're wanting to see at Talladega, because you are about to get freight trained by that outside line, and that's exactly what we're starting to see, to where Austin Reedy is technically at the front of this race. Steve Loving right there behind him, and Ryan Johnson back up at the front, Matt Dula behind him. We're seeing that outside line's really starting to get a little bit better of a push. And we'll see if they're able to keep that going, but it looks like that bottom three on the low line, they formed up. So Garrett Maines, Jeremy Stanley, and Paul Witt, they're going to do everything they can to not throw away the opportunity that they've been given by that caution.
And there for a second, we were 3 wide. There's just Garrett Maines moves up in front of the number 96 of Austin Reedy. Again, he liked that high line earlier. We're 3 wide once again. That is the 9. He did it earlier, and he did it again just now. He's got 4 cars to go with him, making that work. He's going to gain a few positions, jumping out to 3 wide, and look to go 3 wide again. He's getting a run as now the 25 Folgers car looking towards the middle, as these guys are getting nice and racy here right now, quick off this caution.
And we are closing in on the last third of this race, and this is where people are going to start jockeying for position, making sure they're within striking distance when we hit those laps, 10 laps. But I cannot say enough, after a penalty, Andrew Cootie right back up there. But the thing to look is Jeremy Stanley on that low line. He's not making his way up. He's trusting the cars behind him, to where Paul Witt, he has run a fantastic race and managed to take advantage of everything that has been thrown his way. But we're starting to see, we got 3 lines going, gentlemen.
We are 3 wide coming out of turn number 4. That was not of because of Andrew Cootie. That we had cars split into that 3rd line. Andrew Cootie makes the smart move, comes down, gets into it as they continue to run 3 wide coming down the front stretch. Definitely right now, as you say, guys are starting to jockey for position. They definitely don't want to get hung out to dry. They want to stay with this lead group, knowing that these laps are winding down. We're over halfway right now. You want to make sure you're staying with this lead group. Still potential of another green flag stop. That's generally when you're going to see these groups start spreading apart. So you definitely kind of want to start making your way towards the front, and these guys are showing it right now, getting real racy.
And we're still seeing a lot of side-by-side action going on towards the middle of this front pack here, as, again, these guys know it's going to come down to one more stop, so you need to make sure you are in the right position to take advantage of whatever skills you have that apparently I don't on green flag stops, but at least make sure you're still able to stay with this front group, realize what the leaders are doing, and try to either mirror them or beat them on strategy.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, if I'm in this pack, I'm probably trying to get to the back. I don't know if I want to be up here up front where these guys keep going 3 wide. This has got, if they keep doing this, man, I hate to say it, I don't think this is going to sustain, especially over the span of another 60 plus laps. They're going to have to start settling down just a little bit, start getting in line, start running these like we were at the beginning. I mean, they're getting extremely racy.
Well, and we saw at the front there of duel number 1, these guys, it's not...
Oh, there it is. Car in the wall.
And...
Sorry to interrupt you. That was Matt Dula. He jumped to the outside to try to get in front of Andrew Cootie. Andrew Cootie ended up getting into him. Caution's out right now. That is not the 2 that brought out the caution, but he went into that wall. He got that tap, and it sent Matt Dula into that wall. Matt Dula was able to hang on to it, though. Makes you wonder what kind of damage he has on that outside of that car.
Well, and this is where these kinds of races tend to go, is cautions breed cautions, because we bring this massive pack of cars back together, and suddenly it's going to turn into a little bit of a free-for-all.
I wasn't seeing it on the system there, partner, but if you look at the number 54, Dustin Logston, while he's on the backstretch there, this is actually going to be the incident that brings out the caution as they were heading down the backstretch. It looks like he had the one here. Main's on him, giving him a nice push. There you go. You got it up. Got a little squirrely, ended up coming down, and the one just got into to the back right of the car.
That was just not being quite ready for the kind of push that he was about to provide. And that's one of those things that a lot of practice has to go into being ready to be the person being pushed. But now, again, we're throwing everything into the wind, and I'm coming in, I'm getting some fuel, and making it to where I know I can make it on one more stop. As sure enough, we're seeing everybody make their way in. But while we are under caution, we're going to go ahead and hear one more time about the North-South Racing League.
Let's do this! Are you ready for a comeback? Are you ready to fly? Are you ready for the moment? Get ready to ride. Calling all the fighters, calling on survivors. Are you up all nighters? We can take it higher. Let's do this! Can you feel the fire running through your veins? Now you're burning brighter, don't look away. Shout out to the legends, rising from the wreckage. Count down the seconds, it's out your engines. Let's do this!
we are back, and I'm just gonna say it. We have a little bit of an interesting strategy to where we have a new leader to bring us to the green. We have Nash Brambilla staying out, gonna use these caution laps. It takes less fuel to get around when you're under caution, and that is going to make it to where we know we're still gonna have one more stop, but it's a good strategy call to where that he and Matthew Baker are going to be starting on the front row on this restart. That is going to make this very interesting to where Matthew Baker barely made it into this race today. He's going to be in the perfect position to get himself up and possibly a win, because I really think these last 68 laps, they're going to be a lot more aggressive.
And, you know, to caveat off that point, this isn't a season race, right? This isn't a series race. This is a money race. So right now, you're not worried about points at the end of this. You're not worried about a season championship. You're worried about a race win. So definitely, I like the strategy here, doing something different, and it could net them the win.
And again, the caution laps are going to make it to where you're using less fuel. Everybody still has one more stop in them. So, you know what? Roll the dice. Why not?
We're not at Vegas, but it's with a move like this, it definitely feels like we are.
And sometimes those kind of gambles, they can net you some pretty good results. And especially at Talladega, again, I would say, personal opinion, we're looking at 2 more cautions before we're done tonight.
You're saying 2 more?
I'm saying 2 more because I have a feeling once we hit the last 10 laps, somebody's going to be making one move that may not necessarily be the smartest, but necessary.
I'm going at least 3.
Well, I'm being hopeful as we're getting to the restart zone. As car we haven't talked much about tonight, Nash Brambilla is going to be the one dictating when we get moving, and he is off. And that low line definitely got the better start as we're starting to see that 31 of Garrett Maines. We have Andrew Cootie right behind him, manages to get down to that low line, take advantage of the slow start from Jeremy Stanley, get himself right back on the bumper, and we're back where we were before this, with one exception.
Oh.
And, we are starting to see those 2 that did that pit on that from the lead. Again, they're going to be frenemies for the rest of this race until those last 2 laps. That is when they're going to start racing each other rather than working together.
Yeah, they've worked really well together this entire race, and they've liked that high line. That high line's worked really well for both Garrett Maines and Andrew Cootie. So it's understandable why they're doing what they're doing. The move that they made, a lot of guys going high here, and that low line really kind of not getting too organized right now. We don't have too many guys there in that low line. I think we might see a little bit more here as we keep going. One guy now slicing and dicing, heads down, and they're trying to make 3 lines. They're 3 wide once again.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of chaos going on the back stretch, but they're getting themselves back into those 2 lines. But there is no denying that right now, these 2 up at the front, Garrett Maines and Andrew Cootie, they are going to be in lockstep with one another, because they have proven over the course of the 122 laps that we have run that they are going to trust one another to at least keep themselves at the front. But again, it only goes so far when there's $300 on the line at the end.
And right now, to your point, you don't have to worry about, you don't need to be leading right now. Andrew Cootie's not worried about leading. He honestly is probably pretty happy where he's at right now. He's saving a little bit of fuel, and he's letting Garrett Maines waste his fuel. So, I don't, the point is just to be there, and that's what they put themselves in. We're seeing that right now, and we'll see how it develops. But Matthew Baker, the strategy is working out for him, still there in third. So it'll be really interesting to see on how the two that decided to stay out, how that plays out for them. And what these guys do is we're having another line build up here. Some guys trying to make a run here on that lower line.
And more power to them at this point. We had those cautions fall at the exact right time. So I would assume Garrett Maines, even if he leads every lap to the end of this race, I think he is going to have enough fuel to really be able to make it without any kind of an issue, unless we end up going into overtime.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I mean, when I look at it, I look at it, the cause and effect of more cautions, right? So if we have more cautions, that's more fuel that people are saving, and everybody's going to have to come down at least one more time. The only people I think right now that are chancing it is the 26, and I believe that was the 23. Nash Brambilla. So it'll be interesting to see. They're 3 wide heading down the turn 1, heading into turn 2, coming down that backstretch. Now, as the low line's starting to build up, we're starting to see this group stay together nicely. I think that is, if they can tone it down just a little bit, we'll have a nice pack here.
Well, and I think the biggest thing is one of the cars that we are seeing build up in that middle lane is Jason Maines, who we've already seen. He has been working with Garrett to try and get the win. If he can get himself back up to where those two are working in lockstep, that is the last thing that anyone out there on this track wants to see, is two cars that have been, well, they share a last name. Obviously, they're going to be working together, and that is not something you want to be around, because you know one of them is ultimately going to be sacrificing themselves for the other.
Would they, though? I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'd wreck my own brother for $300.
I would just be coming over the radio and saying, all right, I push you to this win, you're giving me 100 of that.
Hey, but 300 is a lot more than 100, so.
But I also know that 100, as we are seeing a lot of people going sideways, and we stay green.
Saving all over the place.
Oh, that was some absolutely brilliant driving, and I'm going to try to find something along that one, because
I thought that was it. I thought that was it, man. I thought that was another caution.
Right, we're just going to jump back here because this is the off track that I saw, and this is...
Oh, my goodness. They tried to go 4 wide.
Oh, yeah, and that was the 6. It looks like he may have blown an engine. He's got smoke coming out of that car.
Yes.
I'm not sure what happened there, but maybe pushing a little too hard caused some overheating, and that's what triggered that. But, there's the caution. We must have had race control step in and bring that one out. So let's take a quick look and see what's going on here. Oh, that's the 4 and the 6 of Andrews Cessno coming together, and that's what...
some splitting. Was that the 21 just slicing and dicing there? Wow.
Yeah, let's jump back really quickly and just see. That was some seriously great car control, and just watching everybody just... It was limited to those 3 people somehow. I don't know how, but
some great driving by everybody else.
And that's going to bring us back under caution as the 31 is waiting for the pace truck to catch him. That is... All right, we've got another caution, and now we're reaching that point to where it becomes the question of, when do you stop topping off?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely will. That's going to be where we end up at. While we got a second, real quick, let's bring in Cody Nagels and see what happened to him there. What do you think?
That's up to you.
Hey, Cody, it's Larry and Josh in the booth, man. You got a copy? See if we got him here. He's got his mic muted. Might not be on. I don't believe we got him.
Oh, that's unfortunate, but that one's understandable with how that...
And, that could have been anything, right? I mean, he may have, had a little tap there, caused some front engine damage, and, or front end damage, and ultimately what caused to blowing of the engine. I want to point out, though, that Nash Brimbella staying out on that last one, that was a huge move for him and Matthew Baker. Matthew Baker, we remember earlier, he was running around 15 to 20th. He's out of this pit stop in second, up 37 spots. So Nash Brimbella, he's in 13th. So staying out on that last one, it really kind of played in their hands getting this caution.
And
now they're back on the same pitching cycle as everybody else.
And that is going to be huge going forward, because they got the track position, made up a lot of spots. But again, we're starting to close out this race. Everybody is coming back together, and they know we're under 60 laps. So it's kind of go time.
And still one pit stop, though, right? I mean, we're factoring about 30 to 40 laps a stint. They're still going to have to do one more pit stop. So I'm interested to see these last two. You mentioned it before, cautions breed cautions. Generally, those are on little smaller tracks, whether it be 1.5-mile tracks, whether it be on the short tracks. That's generally where you see that. But it's showing that it's happening here. Like, we're seeing these cautions are breeding cautions, as we have a car pulling. That's Kenneth McCullough Jr. pulling into the pits.
He's probably just looking to top off. He's still up quite a few spots from where he started at this point. He's on the lead lap, and sometimes that's all that really matters, is being in the main group.
Well, and you got a lot of them doing it. You got Steve Loving that's doing it. We got Kenneth McCullough Jr., Braxton DeWeese. We got Kyle Knapp, Brandon Minnick, and Brad Neer are all in right now, just topping off on fuel. Randy Nichols in the pit showing. So you got some guys that are coming in, just topping off with that fuel here before this caution ends.
And there's a reasonable chance that, again, we're starting to see some raciness. We've got Matt Dula, who won one of the duels, back up at the front. We've got Matthew Baker, who had some bad luck last night, but better luck making his way into the feature on being the top person who didn't qualify from qualifying. And all of these guys, they are currently just waiting for the next move. There's a whole lot of racing left to go, but we've already started to see way more 3-wide than we even saw in the duels last night. We're starting to see guys that are making they have no regard for the front bumper of the person they're cutting off. So we've reached the point that $300 is really starting to dictate how aggressive people are.
Yeah, it's you hit the nail on the head, right? I mean, you want to make sure you're with this front group, so you don't want to drop too far back. You also want to ensure that you're able to keep up. So, you may not want to be at the very front, but you don't want to be at the very back. We're hitting into that gray area, and it's interesting to see how these guys are going. It seems like a lot of guys are just trying to make some moves. They want to get up to that front spot, and they don't want to be there mid-pack.
And that's what's going to bring out probably more cautions as guys are going to be making those moves. We aren't quite at desperation time, but as we're hitting the restart zone, we've got a group up here at the front that we've seen push hard as the green is out, the 31 is off. He may have gotten a little bit too much of a jump to where everybody behind him, and he's right back out to that outside line. There's no denying that that man loves the outside line. And that leaves Matt Dula all alone, and he's about to get a freight train run past him. Actually, he's going to be saved by the fact that Ryan Johnson, somebody from the North-South, the NSRL After Dark team, he's got a friend in there, but we're 3 wide again.
And again, you can't say it enough. Right now, these guys are wanting to make that move. They're wanting to get to the front. If I am a spotter, if I'm a crew chief, heck, if I'm the other drivers, I'll just say, hey guys, let's calm down a little bit here. We still have 50 plus laps. We've got 57 laps to go. Let's calm down a little bit. Let's run some green flag laps, and then we can get racy here with like 20 to go.
But there's no denying that Garrett Maines, he has someone that we have not got to see the talent all that much, but Matthew Baker is right there on the bumper and making sure that that outside line, they are scooting.
That outside line has been extremely strong all day. Been absolutely amazing to see with Garrett Maines up there, just how well it has worked. Andrew Cody, I don't know what's going on with him in pit stops here today. But it dropped back a little bit once again. He's showing an 8. He's been an extremely strong pusher, but I want you to see who's just in front of him in 7th. That's Jason Maines.
And he's doing what he can to get back up to be that support for Garrett Maines. You see him kind of poking his nose down, thinking maybe he'll jump down to that low line. But I think what's going through his mind right now is he has seen that Andrew Cody has been working with Garrett so well that he's the person he wants to be linked up with right now. He knows that he's going to be trying to make that push for the front. No questions asked. But
yeah, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, he has the person that he knows is going to do everything in his power to make his way up to the front. But we're starting to see that low line forming up very well to where Nash Brambilla, getting that track position on the previous caution, is now in full go mode, pushing the 10 of Kyle Benson as hard as he can with Matt Dula right behind him. We're seeing that low line start to get ahead of steam.
I'm loving seeing that the two guys that didn't stop for fuel with Nash and Matthew Baker, they are right now are sitting 3rd and 4th respectively, and they're on the same pit cycle again because of that caution. It goes to show you play your cards right, and it could change your race around for you. Again, off of that, I know I mentioned him just a second ago. I'm going to say it again. The one there of Maines, he's now sitting in 7th, and at one point he was pulling Garrett Maines around that track. So it's wild. This is why I love restrictor plate racing. Just fantastic as we got 135 of 188 complete.
And these guys, we've now got 2 distinct lines of this pack. Everybody is going to be wanting to run as cleanly as they can. We're seeing that full lane between them. So nobody's wanting to end up having that car that gets a little bit loose come up into them, wreck their race, because we are far enough in this that everybody there may be some expletives that would come out of people if they got wrecked out at this point.
You're not wrong about that. I mean, you know, you're looking at about 52 laps to go. I tell you right now who's thinking strategically, and that's going to be Andrew Santo. Andrew Santo right now showing in 26th position. He's 1 lap down. He is the only car 1 lap down. So if you're him, and what I mean by strategically, you are rooting for a caution. You're hoping these guys get really racy. That could bring you back on the lead lap if you get that wave around, which you would. Right now, you're the only car a lap down. You're the next guy, Randy Nichols, is 2 laps down. So answer me this, Josh. If you're him, does it behoove of you to drop away from this group so you have time to react? Or do you not chance that this does go green flag for a prolonged period of time, and then you get lapped and then you lose that lucky dog's position?
I am going to be the person. We are deep enough into this race. I take no chances. I don't want to drop off this pack to have time to react, because I lose that. We have very few cars that are currently running that are not with this lead pack. We look at the track map. There's only a few cars that are off pace. So if I end up dropping off and somehow losing the draft so I can try to preserve my car, the speed advantage from the lone car to the pack with the draft is too great to where I know I'm going to go 1 more lap down. I'm going to take my chance running with this pack that seems like they are right now going to try to settle in, knowing they still have to make a stop, make it to where it's green flag, to where if I have skills, which again we've covered enough, I don't, on green flag stops, that's where my advantage is going to be.
Yeah, completely concur on all points there, partner. I mean, we started this race 40 drivers. Right now, we are at 30 of 40 still on the track. So still
and
strong number
on the lead lap,
which tells us one thing: this is going to get very dicey as we go towards the end. So everybody out there, hey, I just want to once again thank everybody for joining us here today and for sticking around. It's been a long race, some exciting racing, and we hope that these guys, and we honestly, I say hope, we know these guys are going to put on a show as we head down into the ending of this race.
As we're starting to catch that first of those lapped cars, that is the 76 of, there's too many cars. That's Brad Neer that is slowly getting caught by this group, and he's going to be lucky. They're going to catch him on the front stretch where he'll be able to drop below that yellow line and hopefully just let them go before they hit turn 1 and 2. And there it is. He's right there. He's still probably going to have to drop below that line, but no, everybody's just sliding up, and that's going to make it.
They're going to go 4 wide.
Oh, good Lord. We're seeing a lot of stuff going on here as these guys are making their way through, but that causes that kind of an incident, makes it to where the low line was not the place you wanted to be. It caused a massive mix-up to where right now Garrett Maines running at the front of this pack. That high line was where you wanted to be, but who do we see taking it 3 wide right now? We see Jason Maines, who took it 3 wide for a second. He's breaking down. He's got Andrew Cootie there. Cootie is going to try to slide right back into that top line, but we're seeing Jason Maines get to the front of that low line that's starting to form up just a little bit more. We're seeing Maines running both lines right now, and that's what I'm wanting to see. 2 teammates running each line.
Well, 2 teammates with family at that. We're 3 wide again heading into turn 3. One thing you've seen there from Cootie. Cootie was looking. Cootie wanted to go. I don't know if they are talking on the radio or not. I mean, I don't see the Maines in Cootie's channel, and Cootie was trying to go. But unfortunately, he was unable to make that move down. He was not clear. He could have been, but he would have been chopping the nose on Kyle Benson.
squeeze up there to the 31, and he went from possibly leading this lap, being a lap down no more than 40 laps ago, to now being possibly running for the lead of this race. But he has a trusted person behind him and a low line that has had its moments of being unorganized, as we're seeing a few people looking like they're going to try to take it 3 wide into turn 3. And I'm surprised more people aren't joining that middle line.
Yeah, right now, everything's starting to get a little hairy. Everybody's getting a little racy. 3 wide, once again. They're going to split right here, almost going 4 wide. This is definitely getting a little shaky. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty happy I'm in the booth and not down on that track right now.
I would be white-knuckled. These guys have been racing for over 2 hours at this point. Maybe need a bio break here, but that's where this kind of racing really gets interesting, is who has been able to hold focus for 2 hours. These guys all have clean cars. We're starting to see some racing as we're seeing Andrew Cootie in that middle line trying to get himself up to the front, trying to use some of that side draft. But I have a feeling as we keep ticking the laps away, we're going to see a lot more of a third lane forming up, as Cootie right now has Braxton DeWeese, who fell off after a poor pit stop, now is in that fight. And again, we're seeing 3 wide entering turn 1, and I don't think it's really going to change all that much for the rest of this race.
Kyle Benson, one of our provisional guys, sitting now. He was leading this race. They're 3 wide heading down this backstretch. They will go 4 wide. That car is out of the way, though. They're in that low line underneath the yellow. And they're going to be 3 wide. I mean, easily 3 wide as they head into turn number 3. It's wild to see that there was different strategies. Again, Nash Brambilla tried to pit off cycle, got the position because he did off cycle pit. They're 3 wide. Those 2 up front, they're getting a nice run by themselves.
Well, and the thing with those 2 is they're pushing in an absolutely fantastic manner. And the 3 wide is making it to where those cars are getting a little bit of an extra side draft, making it to where they're going to be a little bit slower, as we're starting to see that 3 wide is slowly tailing away. We're going single file towards the front, as we're seeing Andrew Cootie, who's got a run going down the backstretch. He's going to be going for the lead of this race, and he's got Braxton DeWeese right there on his bumper, and they've got 4 cars going on that outside line, getting an absolutely amazing run to get Andrew Cootie back to the lead of this race. And honestly, that's the problem, is we're starting to see a little bit of disorganization as we're on the front stretch. There aren't distinct lines. It's just a gaggle.
Sorry, I had to take a breath. They continue. These guys are running 3 wide. We're sitting at lap 146 of 188. These guys are 3 wide still and running strong. I think the crazy thing, that the thought process of this right now is you still have another pit stop.
And that's
so
what I'm not
you have to throw that into
comprehending.
factor.
Is these guys are getting racy. We are going to make one more stop. And if we stay 3 wide, there are going to be guys that will be blocked up on that high line, unable to come down for the stops when they want to. They're eventually going to have to slice someone's nose off to make it to where they can, as we're seeing the 10 of Kyle Benson trying to now make a run on the outside. He's got Nash Brambilla on his bumper, and we saw those 2 working well together already. Will they be able to put up a fight as they're going for the side draft? And we're definitely seeing them do what they can to get back to the front of this race. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive 40 laps of this.
I got to know if Ross, you watched all day yesterday. If you're out there, man, I know you were watching earlier. I got to know, man, what do you do to slow your heart rate down? Mine is elevated. But no, in all seriousness, man, racing just incredibly exciting now. again, we have a lot to look forward to. Right now, we got two distinct lines. Here comes Kyle Benson, drops to the inside. Nash Brambilla, he's going to go with him, and they're going to get the run on Andrew Cootie. As Austin Reedy, they're going to split, and they're going 3 wide, heading back into turn 1.
And they're leaving Cootie alone on that middle lane. No one's really wanting to drop down with him as he cuts off the 429's bumper just a little bit there. Paul Witt did a good job of getting himself checked up, getting himself to where he's going to be safe. But the thing that we're seeing is a lot of slicing and dicing. Braxton DeWeese at the front of this pack right now. He goes high, and that opens up the door. Oh, good Lord. My brain can't comprehend this.
You had the 21 drop down, and they were leaving Braxton DeWeese on that high line. And just a lot of slicing and dicing right now. This is some spectacularly exciting racing right now.
But that also makes it to where the 8 of Braxton DeWeese has someone he races with regularly right on his bumper on that outside lane. They're actually being joined by the 6, and I do believe that is David Grantham. No, that is not. That's me asking far too much. All of these cars with their numbers not matching kind of throws my brain off. But again, Kyle Benson right now barely makes it into the race, and he is leading as we close out lap 149. He is going to be not only the hard charger, but he is also threatening to win this race.
Just right now, again, incredible race. There's a lot of guys. This is what we love about restrictor plate racing, right? We got Austin Reedy right now. He's showing as your leader. He is up 36 spots. You got Daniel Holloway up 29 spots. Kyle Benson up 34 spots. Nash Brambilla up 23 spots. Jason Maines up 18 spots. Matthew Baker up 21 spots.
Yeah.
This is some extremely exciting racing right now. And to go off your point earlier, man, for me, it's not the numbers, it's this racing. It is.
And we're seeing so much 3 wide as these guys are just slicing through the pack, trying to keep that track position. And we pretty much saw no extended 3 wide racing last night in the duels. And right now we have run 15 laps with 3 distinct lines at some point during each lap. And the entire group still together. But right now, the 421 or 429 of Paul Witt is leading that low line and leading this race.
And you know, again, just going off that, right now, we're seeing 151 of 188 laps. So these guys, you're going to start thinking, when am I coming in? Because we're getting into that point where if you make that pit stop, you can make it on fuel. You're also wondering, realizing in this pack, everybody's really racing. So you're questioning, is there a chance that there's going to be another caution? I don't want to go in right now, get stuck down, stuck down a lap. So you may push the fuel. There's a lot of things that's going through your minds as you are running 3 wide. So I'm really glad I'm in the booth and not down there on the track right now.
We have 23 laps into this stint, which means 15 roughly left before we have to start thinking about pit stops. Me as a racer, knowing we still have that one, I'm going to run it dry, hoping that there is a caution that makes it to where essentially we get a free pit stop. But I also know that there's a chance it's not going to come. But with how racy everyone is getting right now, I'm almost going to chalk it up as an inevitability. And looking out there in the comments, I agree that these guys need to relax ever so slightly, but we've got a purse on the line, and it's all going to come down to track position. If I'm at that front, waiting for that caution to hopefully come, I want to be the first person into the pits, so I am the first person out of the pits.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Payday, payday, payday. Again, there's no points on the line for this. You're not worried about a season-ending championship. You're wanting that bragging rights and that purse of $300 at the end of this.
And not to mention the something from Kelly's Custom Engraving to commemorate that win.
Oh, that's huge. That's that bragging rights, right? I mean, you've always got that. Anybody says anything to you, just snap a little picture of that fine art you're getting and send it to them. And I promise you, they'll have to be quiet because, well, they ain't got one. So
yeah, that's
we're starting
why, my turtle lamp from winning a season last year is always on my desk.
We're seeing two distinct lines now. It looks like everybody's starting to calm down. I think this is a cause and effect of knowing that we are going to have another pit stop. Guys aren't going to want to get left out. So you're starting to see everybody start getting down that low line. That high line's kind of taking just a small backseat to that. So I would say it's because we're starting to see this build up on that low line.
Well,
start watching for guys to dip off.
And also we've got lap traffic coming into play. But again, we're at the point that track position is really going to matter. We're coming up on 32 laps to go. And right now, the guys that I'm actually wanting to be sitting in their position, I'm wanting to be Paul Witt, Vincent Guerrero. I'm wanting to be Kyle Benson. These guys, they're at the front of their groups. Actually, Daniel Holloway is the one that really I want to be. These are the guys at the lead on that low line, which means I'm going to be able to cleanly get into the pits when I peel off. I'm not waiting for someone to let me down. I'm wanting to be that person that, you know what, when someone decides it's time to pit, I can.
Yeah, you're 100% right. They're starting to stretch out on that high line once again. Kind of surprising to see, in my opinion. Again, these pit stops are coming up. You're going to want to set yourself up, and you want to set yourself up for success. Now, some of these guys in this high line, they may be already knowing, hey, I'm stretching this thing as far as I can go.
As we see Kyle Benson and Naf Brambilla jump down to the front of that low line, that's the right move. The outside line got them to where they could get themselves down. They were already at the front of a pack, which means that they're going to be struggling a little bit on fuel, but now they're struggling for fuel on the lane that can get them into the pits. Because I'm thinking to myself, all right, we're coming up. We've got about 30 laps to go. We know that a fuel run, 38, 39, 40. I'm able to come in now, get my fuel, make sure that we are good to go to the end of this race. Hope we don't go into overtime to where I have to run those extra laps. But I'm thinking about the undercut at this point, if I'm these guys at the front.
Well, and the only way this works is if you have, and here we go, we got guys coming in. So we got a lot of guys coming in. It looks like the mains are coming in. And there you go.
Witt's leading the front of that group. Vincent Guerrero, Christopher McCullough, both of the mains, Brandon Holder, Jeremy Stanley, Braxton DeWeese, Brandon Minnick. Like, that is splitting this in half. And who do we see stay out and not go with that group? The person that we know is going to be fighting as we see him look towards the outside, that is Andrew Cootie. I'm going to be the one reacting right now. This entire pack that stayed out, I'm going in now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at this point, I would say you have to go. The only thing, your only saving grace if you stay out right now is here they go. Your only saving grace is if you would have had, about 10 more laps of fuel. And you know that the group that's coming out is going to be really racy. And if you can organize, you can put distance on that racy group. But you're right. That was absolutely the right call. React to what you just seen. Hope you get in, get out, and you can get with this group. And right now, I don't take tires. There is no way I'm taking tires right now.
No, because you need to make sure you
And
are in
I'm
and out of
seeing
that
it.
stall as quickly as possible, because look at who is going to cycle out as the leaders of this race. We have Jason Maines, followed immediately by Garrett.
And as soon as I said that, I'm watching the 9 of Andrew Cootie. He took 4 in fuel.
And that could come to be an advantage for him if we get a green-white checker in this race. But you have to be thinking these guys are going to already be all the way up to speed. As we're seeing them, they're just now getting to pit exit. Are they going to be able to clear them? No, they are not. They're hitting the front of what that group that pit last. Kyle Benson, Ryan Johnson, these guys are getting around them. Kyle Benson has a fantastic stop, but he doesn't quite have the momentum. He's now going to give the draft to the Maines. They're going to jump up onto that high line. And as we get through green flag pit stops, these top 5, they are separated just ever so slightly, but there's going to be enough of a draft to where we're probably going to be back to 2 wide within about 3 laps.
Well, and you've got 5 cars right there. You've got the advantage with Jason Maines, Garrett Maines, Steve Loving.
As we jump back, and there's a little bit of a shake-up.
That's what you don't want to see.
Ryan Johnson looks like he may have had a little bit too much closing speed and had to bail out suddenly, and that's going to scrub speed off. This second group is going to be 2 wide. That's going to make them slower. And right now, Kyle Benson, he is over a second separated from Matthew Baker in 5th place. And that could spell close to the end for everyone behind him.
Well, Kyle Benson's kind of left out to dry here, right? So the second group is catching him, and they're going to freight train him. Right now, they're moving to the outside. They're going around Kyle Benson. Kyle Benson gets down as close as he can to that yellow line. The problem with this is, once again, I'm watching the speed here of all these cars, and you're looking at right now the Maines are at 190 miles an hour, and we'll go with Andrew Cootie right now. He's showing at 190, 187. So the Maines are running the same pace, if not just a tad bit faster. The interval back from Matthew Baker to Nash Brambilla, 2.81.
As we're on board with Nash
there's no cars
Brambilla,
between them.
We see that lead pack. They are far enough ahead that they are not going to be within striking distance for a while, unless he is currently getting the massive push from the 9 to try to close that gap, and it looks like they are.
He is.
And
they
that's
went
going to
from
be the only hope they have.
right now. That gap went from 2.7 to 2.25. I just wanted to get it to that 2.2 because it's at 2.21 right now. So if you're Nash Brambilla right now, you are loving having the number 9 on your tail end because he is giving some massive pushes. It also helps Austin Reedy there. He is giving some gigantic pushes. If I'm Jason Maines, I am yelling at Garrett Maines and Steve Loving and these guys and telling them, get on my back bumper. Let's get away from these guys.
Well, and here's the thing that's somewhat surprising. If we're focused, we see a lot of chaos going on there. And if I'm in the position, Kenneth McCullough was stuck between the 2 groups. I'm going to hold my line and make this second group go around me because I'm already a lap down. I want to see a lot of chaos in front of me. That way I have that opportunity to get myself back up there. Let them come up to me, run the freight train past me, but make it to where I'm giving them that little bit of a gap to where this is Matthew Baker. He's still over 2 seconds separated, and he's still in that fight. And that gap of 2 seconds we've got 25 laps to go. It's going to take a lot of effort from Nash Brambilla and Andrew Cootie to be able to close that down.
And they are. We are right now, as they come in that corner, 2 seconds is the gap. It's down to 1.95. It's going to build up just a little bit as these guys hit that front stretch. But if you watch the 9, again, if I'm Nash Brambilla, I am ecstatic by who I have behind me because Andrew Cootie is shoving him down these straights.
Well, we'll
and
go right there onto the gearbox of Nash Brambilla and just looking to see. He gives him the space during the corner, make sure that there's no aero issues. But as we're about to exit turn 2,
closing,
we get to see the inside of that number 9. And that's what they need to be doing.
Look at that. You could not fit an index card. I use the index card because of the NFL. But you couldn't fit an index card between those two cars. Andrew Cootie is shoving Nash Brambilla down these straights. And as you stated, he's doing it in such a great, respectable manner in the fact that he's not doing it in the turns. And he's not doing it as they're coming out of the corner. It's when they almost times it where he's getting perfectly straight, gets square, and is able to make contact. And it's just incredible to watch right now.
And he's actually doing it, something we haven't talked about. The easiest car to get that close to another car with these next gens, it is the Ford. The Mustang has the most square nose of any of this generation. And he's doing it with the Camaro, which a little bit pointy, not quite pointy to the Camry's aspect, but he is right there hitting him squarely and making it to where there is no movement whatsoever. That is the sign of somebody that has done this quite a bit.
Now, I will say one thing. This drive they had, it sold out. We are still sitting at 2 seconds. So the top 5 have worked well enough to start closing in on each other to where they are able to hold this gap. I don't know if right now we're showing at 2.1. So your top 5, they're getting a sniff off of a lapper there, and they're able to start catching them and pull just a little bit away. 2.1. So these guys are going to start, they're working well enough with each other to be able to open up this gap just a tad bit. But it's really, really
this is
refreshing, but interesting to see on how these guys are working together right now.
And again, we've got 2 people that we know are working together to where they basically are running the same paint scheme, just inverted between where the yellow and the black is. These 2 mains, they've probably practiced this extensively, but the one thing that is going to make a huge difference is we jump back to this second group. They're now getting the draft, but they're just enough out of sorts that they're pushing 3 seconds back now.
Well, and we see that because of something happened to Kyle Benson here. Kyle Benson now is sitting in 13th position. That has now got Austin Reedy just in front of Andrew Cootie. That right there is what just caused that gap to expand. So not 100% sure what happened there,
well,
but
find where that pass happened and
I do want to
look.
I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it today. I'm a dad. It's really become a main event because these 2 mains are really, they're winning.
Oh God.
Oh God. Hey, wait till I hope they win. We could get a lot of good puns, a lot of good dad jokes out of this.
Here is what ended up happening, and let's just take a quick rewind. I hate doing it, but it just looks like Cootie may have gotten a little too aggressive on the push, and that pushes him out of that line.
And 3 wide, 1 car in the wall. We're good though. We are still going. He was able to hold it, but they started shuffling there. I don't know if there was a checkup. It looks like that may
Are we
Looks
talking
like
about
Matt
the mid-pack?
Dula.
Yeah, that's what I
Yes,
was.
it was Matt Dula.
Let's jump ourselves back here and see. Oh, yeah, Matt Dula
Oh, he just missed the wall.
got a little bit loose. Looks like he may have had to bail to avoid hitting people, but again, we're going to go back up here. This front group, the gap is stabilized around 3 seconds, but with 19 laps to go, it's slowly looking like it may become insurmountable.
You say that now, but hear me out. These guys right here, these bottom five, or these top five, Jason Maines, Garrett Maines, Steve Loving, Daniel Holloway, and Matthew Baker, they are not going to be satisfied with the Maines leading this race. They will start getting racy. I'm predicting this to start roughly around lap 10 because you don't want to wait too late. I mean, if you're Matthew Baker, you're sitting in fifth, you're going to have to pass 4 cars, 2 of them being relatives. So I definitely see these guys start getting racy here in about 8 laps.
Honestly, I'm looking at it from the terms of I'm going to wait until probably the last 3. I'm wanting to make sure that that gap to the back of me is not going to be closed down. Because if they start getting racy with 10 laps to go, that's going to slow them down, and that's going to give that back pack a chance to really catch up. I always try to look a little bit farther in the future and know that I would rather be battling with 5 people and know that I'm going to end up in the top 5 than start earlier and make it to where we've got the top 14 suddenly battling with us.
I 100% agree with you in that aspect. But, again, you have 2 teammates and 2 relatives sitting there. They're not going to make it easy. Any of these guys move, I promise you Garrett Maines will jump. Or Jason Maines will jump. They're going to try to dictate both lines. So you're going to have to make this move to where you can get around both of them. That's why I think you're going to have to give yourself a little bit more time. If you are in that second pack, Austin Reedy, if I'm Austin Reedy, I'm coming over the radio. I don't care if the other drivers in the front group hear me. I'm going over the radio in sim, not my team radio, not through Discord, not through TeamSpeak, nothing like that. I'm coming over and I'm yelling, stay in line, because I'm accounting for those 5 getting racy, maybe making a mistake, bringing out a caution and letting us catch them. If you start getting racy, you're never going to catch them.
But as we're talking through all of this, suddenly the gap from Matthew Baker up to Daniel Holloway, or no, Austin Reedy to Matthew Baker, we're pushing 4 seconds now. These guys are not necessarily staying as nice and neat as it was when it was Andrew Cootie and Kyle Benz or Nash Brambilla at the front of this pack. Those 2 were working well. They were the perfect pair that I want at the front of this, because it's looking like Andrew Cootie, he's not having the fantastic pushes that he was earlier.
And I want you to, partner, if you can go back up to these top 5, it's building. We got 15 laps to go, but you can kind of see where this is already heading. Steve Loving, he's not as much on Garrett Maines or Jason Maines. Garrett Maines is all over the back of Jason Maines. Steve Loving actually left himself a nice little gap, and every time he starts getting a little closer, he starts showing his nose to that outside, and he keeps looking towards that outside. I give it, like I said, 5 laps, somebody's going to start moving.
I can see it, especially when I'm seeing the kind of gap, even though it is closing down, to where Austin Reedy is slowly closing it back down to 3 seconds. That is playing in the back of my mind. Is I'm looking at my relative thinking, again, I have worked with non-teammates just to create these kinds of gaps to where I know I'm going to be racy at the tail end, but I want to make sure that I'm not going to drop back out of 5th place when that happens.
Well, you got to think in hindsight too, right? If this is a points race, you're sitting in this top 5 and you're saying, let me not do anything stupid to where I end up in 30th or, 29th or anything like that. You $300. That's what you're shooting for. Bragging rights, a awesome, custom trophy. This is do or die. This is, you either win or you don't. I'd say, as Ricky Bobby said, either you're first or you're last in this one. There is no second. You're winning or you're not.
I will not argue that. The only thing I'm arguing is when I'm getting racy. I'm waiting for the last 5, maybe even the last 3, as we see that move, that look to the outside. He's letting him know that he's ready to start
There
going.
you go. Oh, ducks back in.
And again, I'm the person that I'm going to wait. I know that the last 3 laps, it may even be that last lap that I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to start setting it up as we're hitting the tri-oval. I'm going to start getting that run. I know that the guys behind me, if I make that move to the outside, I know they're following.
Well, but
they know that's the move.
Herein lies that issue, though, right? You're thinking in the lines of Steve Loving. Steve Loving sitting prettier than, say, Daniel Holloway and Matthew Baker. Right now, if you're Matthew Baker, you don't have to drive out of your rearview mirror. All you're thinking is, when do I want to go? I have nobody behind me. I don't have to worry about blocking anybody. All I have to do is just lay off just a little bit, get a really strong run, and I'm making my run to the outside. I'm going to side draft, and I can make this run by myself.
But the question will be is if I make that move in Matthew Baker's shoes, I see the 2 in front of me. If they see me move to the outside line, are they going to move out in front of me, maybe kill that run, and ultimately we're going too wide?
Absolutely, but here's the thing. Matthew Baker still dictates all of that. Just because if Daniel Holloway moves to that outside, Matthew Baker he's got the run. He jumps back to the inside, and now he's gained at least 1 position. He has more positions he's got to gain to win this thing. So I think right now in the driver's seat, Matthew Baker. When does Matthew Baker go? Because Daniel Holloway, and Steve Loving, they're wondering, when do I go? When do I make this move? And does the guy behind me start making the move before I do? Because that could mess up my plans.
Well, as we're going to go ahead and jump back into the second pack, because these guys are starting to get racy now. The gap has expanded to 5 seconds. There's no way these guys are going to be able to make up a half a second a lap to close out this race. So these guys are going to be going to see who can get that 6th position, and they're starting to get racy as Cootie is trying to block runs and keep himself in that 6th position. But as this group starts to get racy, it becomes, I'm going to be in Matthew Baker's shoes and think to myself, okay, these guys are starting to drop off me. There's no way they're going to catch me. Now it's go time, to where this is the kind of thing that I'm wanting to see, knowing that they're over 5 seconds. We're closing out. We have 8 laps to go. Now it's time to start setting up the run, as we see him get that little bit back, but we do have lap traffic coming up, and that would also be changing my mind on what I'm about to try.
And he peeks. He looks to the inside there. I don't know what exactly happened to Daniel Holloway, but Daniel Holloway, he dropped off quite a bit there off of Steve Loving, and they're catching back up, but it really makes you run. He peeked towards that inside. As these guys, as you stated, are catching lap traffic. They're too wide with the lap traffic. Respectfully, one of the guys drops below that yellow line. They're going to give him plenty of room. Great to see. But
well, we've got somebody out in the comments kind of thinking exactly what I would be. As we're hitting lap traffic, I'm going to pop my nose out, try to use some of their draft to get a little bit extra of a run, get myself around to where we're going to change the dynamics of this front pack. But they stay in line to get around them. I would be thinking about, use them, get that massive run that I can get, as we're going to see this group is actually going to try to join this, and that could make this even more interesting as we close up.
I tell you right now, if I'm Baker, I'm making a move. I'm going right now. It's do or die time. You've got a 6-second gap on Kyle Benson. You've got the room. It's go time. You're going to have to make this move. You've got 4 cars you got to pass, and 2 of them are teammates, relatives. You got to start making your move.
Well, and now he has that opportunity to where maybe these lappers are going to think to themselves, I'm going to help this person because, you know what?
Could be a teammate.
I got nothing to lose.
It could be a teammate. You never know. That could be their teammate.
All right, let's kind of cheat a little bit here and see who we have in this, to where that looks like it is the 25 of Mike Vanno right behind him. And Mike Vanno is actually in chat with Steve Loving. So I'm looking forward to seeing if those two decide to link up, as we're also seeing Vincent Guerrero jumping out there in the 14. He is actually up there with Holloway, so this is going to make this very interesting. As these guys in the front 5, as we are seeing Matthew Baker make that run to the outside, seeing if anybody's going to go with him. And it doesn't look like anybody's really going to be taking. But as we've got 5 laps to go, we're about to cross the line with 4. We've got lap teammates up here with the front 5. It's going to be, how much support are these guys going to get?
Yeah, and as you stated, that was brilliant on your part, figuring out who's with who. Right now, because of who is behind Matthew Baker, he's at a disadvantage. He goes, they're not going. He's going to have to make the run himself. He's going to have to side draft. He's going to have to get a massive run.
He's looking to poke that nose out ever so slightly, but he is the one person that has no teammate support with him. So it's going to really come down to how brave am I going to be as we're entering the front stretch. We're going to have 3 laps to go. It's go time in my mind.
For everybody. Your gap back from these top 5, 6.9 seconds. You've got to start making your move. Nobody's catching you behind. $300 on the line. Let's go. We got 3 laps to go.
As I'm just going to jump back to this second group one more time. They're getting racy themselves, this entire group.
Here goes Steve Loving. Steve Loving coming out of turn 2, laid back nicely, starting to get a run on the mains. He's gonna get this run. He gave him about a car and a half, and he picked up some pace. I'm surprised he didn't catch him as fast as he should have, but there you go. Look, Matthew Baker now, he starts to slow up, starts to give a little bit of room. There goes the 25, peeking towards the outside. Matthew Baker getting a little bit of a run. I'm surprised he didn't jump there.
Again, I think it may be just a little bit too early to show your entire hand. 2 laps to go. This is where I'm going to be setting myself up. I'm going to be slower coming out of turn 4, making it to where I can get that massive run, start that outside line as we come out of turn 4, so we have that opportunity to make the pass as we're get alongside them in 1 and 2 and really make the massive push coming out of turn 3.
If I'm Steve Loving, Daniel Holloway, and Matthew Baker, I work with each other. I want the 31 and the 1 out of this mix.
We're seeing that massive gap right now. We're seeing the 21 look to get a little bit of a nose down there. But this is where I'm thinking about it. He's got that 2-car length gap that he's going to be able to close as we're seeing the 21 make that move to the outside.
2 of them going.
And Matthew Baker alongside. All of the lappers are joining in this fight, giving them that little bit of an extra push. But Matthew Baker and Daniel Holloway, these guys, the mains both jump out to block the run, but I don't know if they're going to be able to hold off this entire pack as we see Matthew Baker drop down low. He's going to get himself down below the 21, get himself up into third place.
Got to go high. You can't let them check you up.
He's got that run. He's right on the bumper as we are going to go into the front stretch. Are we going to have, no, the 31 is giving the massive push to the 1. He's going to jump out to the outside, and we will see the 1 and the 1.
Jason Maines.
Jason Maines pulls off the win by 1/100th of a second, followed by Garrett Maines and Matthew Baker in third. That was a little more calm than I was anticipating. This entire front group survived, but I won't go through the number of red notifications that I currently have for Rex going across the line. But right now, Jason Maines is our winner. Went from a lap down all the way back up to the win. And
you know, right there, Matthew Baker will get the hard charger of the race. Up 36 spots, got the provisional to start 39th position.
And that is the kind of thing, he did not waste his opportunity. Getting himself back into this race, makes a very bold pit strategy decision, puts him at the front, and does not waste the opportunity. Oh, apparently he was 2 laps down. And oh, that is an absolutely fantastic finish to what was 3 hours of fantastic racing. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at our finishing positions for the night. Our winner, Jason Maines. Garrett Maines takes home second, and Matthew Baker rounds out the podium. Daniel Holloway in fourth, Steve Loving in fifth, Austin Reedy in sixth, Andrew Cootie seventh, Kyle Benson eighth, Nash Brambilla ninth, Matt Dula in 10th.
And in 11th, we got David Grantham, 12th, Brandon Minnick, 13th, Ryan Johnson in 14th, Craig Lautenschlager in 15th, Christopher McCullough in 16th, Paul Witt, 17th, David Sheets, 18th, Kyle Knapp, in 19th, Jeremy Stanley, and in 20th, Braxton DeWeese.
21st, Brandon Holder, 22nd, Mike Vano, 23rd, Vincent Guerrero, 24th, Randy Nichols, 25th, Kenneth McCullough Jr., 26th, Kenneth Bishop, 27th, Andrew Sanzo, and 28th, Julian Condi, 29th, Brad Neer, 30th, Ambrose Knebel.
And in 31st, we got Cody Nagels. God, you corrected me earlier. No, I don't forgot. 32nd, Dustin Loxton in 33rd, TJ Rogers, 34th, Justin Westerfield in 35th, Tristan Bailey in 36th, Kevin Haas, 37th, Chris Akers, 38th, Dustin Sluter, and 39th, Cade Green, and rounding out the field in 40th, Colton Zimmer.
All right, let's see. Do we have everybody actually in here?
Oh, we have Jason Maines. We got the winner.
We've got the winner waiting for us. And an absolutely fantastic run. Looked a little sketchy, but Jason Maines, how are you feeling after that grueling 188 laps? You're muted, by the way.
Jason, can you hear us? If you can hear us, you're on mute.
No, he unmuted. Yep. He muted himself in the wrong place there. Still muted. Do you have push to talk? That's the big thing.
That could be it.
I make my teammates listen to my train of thought through this whole process.
Oh, we lost Jason Maines now.
All right. While he sorts that one out, let's go ahead and talk to our second place finisher, Garrett Maines. It was a long run, and you were always there.
Yeah, I was right where I needed to be for the majority of the race, that last stint. Before we pit, we got a little dicey up there. I was like, I don't feel comfortable up here anymore, and I tried to drop back and just time the pit stop, and thankfully I was able to make a ton of time up on pit entry there, and that really changed the race for us.
All right, so we have to ask, because Larry speculated, are you and Jason in the same room?
No, I am downstairs. He is upstairs. He'd drive me nuts if we were in the same room.
Hey, close enough. I do want to say, first off, Garrett, hey, that was a fantastic race. I mean, just spectacular. You were there up front the entire time. I got to know, there was a point where you let Jason, he was not a lap down, could have been a lap down, but you let him in front of you and ran that out till you guys hit caution. At that point, did you guys think that this is it? We are going to be there at the end, or was there kind of just like, hey man, like you're almost a lap down, just help me out real quick?
Yeah, this worked out better at the end than we thought it was going to, because I genuinely thought it might go green. It was literally down to me and Andrew, and my dad just made up his time on his pit cycle, so he was right there with us. But it was definitely not looking great for him because he was 2 down. So like when I put him 1 down in front of me so I could save some fuel, it still wasn't perfect. But thankfully we were able to get back together once the cautions came out and get lined up there at the end. I mean, Steve was doing a fantastic job. So was Daniel in that pack. I mean, we were making the best pace of the race with us 5, and was able to pull away from the second pack. So that was the game changer. I thought we were for sure going to get swallowed up by the bigger pack, but once Steve got up on me, we pulled away.
No, it was a fantastic showing. We talked about it excessively. It's one of the things I love about this next gen car is it's very easy for a smaller pack to still be faster just because of how the aerodynamics work and actually how long you can run right on the bumper of someone.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this car, I think it takes way, way more awareness than the other cars. Things happen so much faster. There's so much more side draft. You really have to be mindful of where you're placing your car, and you're not looking at 2 cars back. You're looking at 4 cars back for where the runs are going to form. It's definitely different. It took some time to get used to it, but I think this is like my 3rd or 4th race running in this car, and it's probably my favorite to race on plate tracks. But man, does it get hectic if you don't have pit stops.
So I'm curious, did you react there at the end based on what the guys behind you were doing, or was your plan to make that move there at the very end, obviously with them not making the move as early as they did?
Well, once Baker popped up, I was like, well, if he ends up pushing who was it, Daniel by, or get to my outside, that would pull me off of my dad. So I was like, you know what? I probably need to tell my dad to get up. So he gets up, and then right as we got to the corner, we got down to make sure nobody snuck to our inside. And, coming off of turn 4, I think the best plan of attack was to be the person making the move, not waiting for somebody else to do it. So, a nice mains 1-2 is always cool. And I didn't want to take us out of contention by doing it too early. So I thought where I did it was the only right place.
So I'm going to do this knowing that, again, at least you're in the same household. We're going to go ahead and bring up the winner as well. And I'm going to ask, did you pull rank there saying that, no, I need to be the one to win this?
No, there's no pulling rank. That was called working together. But then my teammate Baker was behind me, which we raced together pretty much every week. And Garrett taught me a lot on here with drafting and stuff. So Baker went with me. That was the difference there. That was a good race.
Wait, the 3 of you were teammates?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely teammates. Baker and I run together every week. And obviously my son, he races all the time.
So I got to know, for real quick, does that mean Dad's buying dinner tonight?
Well, if Dad
No,
wants to buy gas, that'd be
whoa,
great. 'Cause
whoa,
I'm
whoa.
actually leaving for
Right.
vacation in about 5 minutes.
Let's back this up. So Garrett didn't give Daddy any of the 1,000 that Dad pushed him to the win at Daytona. So I don't want to hear about no sharing today.
Oh man. Hey Jason, that was a fantastic race. I'm glad you guys clarified that. I speculated you guys were in the same house, but then I kept calling you guys brothers. So obviously that was clarified. Now we got father son. And as we asked Garrett there, how did you feel when you were 2 laps down and then he let you by to get 1 lap back? Was that, Garrett said that you guys kind of thought that was grim. Was there any thought process in your mind that I can still win this?
Well, I mean, it was a smart play for us. One, they needed to save fuel. I basically made my bed when I messed up on pit road, so I knew I needed to be in front of him, and we worked so good together tandem, and so we actually pulled like 12 seconds on the next group. So it wasn't a negative to them, but it got me back on the 1 lap down. So if the caution came out, which it did, I took the wave, and that put me back in there, with them, and allowed us to, do some strategy and, like I said, tandem. And it comes down to, like with Baker and Garrett, we work together so many races that we know what the driver leading is going to do, where he's going to put his car, so we can line up and push smoothly. And it pays huge dividends. We communicate. Communication's everything.
No, it was one of those things that we obviously, judging by the paint schemes and the last name, could tell that you two were going to be working together quite a bit, but the level of cooperation from the duels last night into today, it cannot be said enough that having that person that you trust be on your bumper and someone that you have done that with enough, it cannot be understated how important that is in these kinds of races.
Well, it is, and that's why there's no greed between us when we're teammates. I mean, we don't care who wins. That's just the way we do it, and it keeps it fun. And there's a lot of guys in there that we race with. The McCullough, Nash, Neer, Holder. We race with those guys a lot. And so, you have confidence in them. They know what we're going to do. We're not going to put ourselves in a bad situation. Last night, I was a little disappointed, to be honest. I mean, I feel like Garrett and I executed that race really well. I got hung out in that one, and, that's plate racing. So I got shuffled back to 12th, and I gambled on tires just to see. And I came back through, and somebody, made just a mistake down in the corner and caused that wreck, and I was just grateful to come through 15th. And that was a little bit of a concern because Baker and I fell to the rear, and we showed we could catch back up, but we really we wanted to be up there with Garrett, so we could actually pit together and work together. So it took a lot of strategy, a lot of good fortune, and a lot of clean racing to make that even happen.
No, it was a fantastic race. It was all, I just want to say from us watching up here, it was awesome to see you come back. It was awesome to see the way you guys work together. Garrett, I mean, the testament to you, man. You worked so well with a various array of different drivers, and it was fantastic to see. This is a heck of a win. I mean, I got to know, how does it feel, man? I mean, you just won $300 and a custom trophy and the first Alabama 500.
I appreciate it. It feels awesome, actually. Like I said, it's a long time to be on this sim, and the race was so clean. Obviously, it could have been a longer race, but yeah, I'm just grateful. I got back into racing. A lot of people know this story, but I almost broke my neck racing in real life, and was supposed to be racing with Garrett. That was going to be my next week, was my retirement for racing, and so that didn't go. And he took over, and he's had success in racing, and really. It's why I'm on here. It's y'all really don't even have a clue how much it means for me to race with my son. That's what it's about. I'm getting goosebumps even telling you that, because it's, as they get older, as well as I do, you don't get to spend as much time. Hell, he's going on vacation and I'll be home at work. So, that's what it's about for me. Every time I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's why we're here. We do this for him. Grateful to have you guys broadcast and, everybody putting the race on today. My teammates in here, Garrett and Baker, are amazing. And got to thank ChevyLiners.com, Leaf Filters, Bradley Mechanical, Lennox Industries, and at Martin Sports. A lot of supporters for both of us that really help us, and greatly appreciate that. And Colleague Racing for helping Garrett.
No, it was a fantastic race. I love hearing those kinds of stories because Larry and I in one of our leagues get to run with a father and son combo and know that honestly those weekly races that you get to run together, and even if you're separated by distance, the fact that you can still come together, race, have a great time, and keep that connection and really just appreciate the time that you get to spend together, even if it's virtually, it cannot be, there's nothing that can ever take that away, and it's wonderful.
No, I really appreciate that, and that's why, I will tell you, Elliot Sadler brought us all together as a team. His whole family is wonderful, so it's great to be affiliated with them. And yeah, I mean, you guys didn't see it when I first got back on here. I guess it's a couple of years ago. The very first race, Garrett said he regrets saying this. He says, "Dad, you got to push me." I said, "Garrett, I'm not comfortable yet pushing you like that." And so we went to turn one, and I went in a little too early because my vision, I couldn't see the line entry. And with 2 to go, I turned him in front of the field. So yeah, that was not a good day. But in all honesty, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had the race locked up, and he went to shove me and hook me. So, yeah, we're even.
Hey, some awkward dinners right there. Well, hey, it was a fantastic race, guys, man. This was awesome. Thanks for putting on a heck of a show. But Jason, I gotta hear it, man. Let me hear some excitement. You just won $300.
Woo!
Hey, man, good job, guys, and we hope to get to call some more races with you guys.
I appreciate you guys. Did a great job. I watched the broadcast when I was over last night. Did a great job. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks,
gentlemen. Guys. All right. We got to get the other teammate in here. Mr. Matthew Baker barely made it into the race and still ends up on the podium.
Yeah, feeling good.
So, honestly, the biggest question I have, when we had that caution around lap 100, really, what was going through your mind staying out at that point?
I knew I was close to Garrett and Jason, so I knew we were going to make it work. And we had Andrew there with us as well that was helping get us to push up to the front. So I was feeling pretty confident. As long as I was inside the top 15, we were going to make it happen.
No, well, you ran go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, you absolutely. It was once you were up there, you were not going away.
Yeah, no, I definitely drove my butt off coming from 39th to 3rd. Just happy that Jason and Garrett could maintain up there the whole time, and we could pull out that 1, 2, 3. It was a lot of fun.
First off, man, you have a ton of support in the chat, which is awesome to see. So I'm sure they're elated and ecstatic to see you finish in 3rd. So I mean, they kind of answered it for us. We didn't realize at the time, but you guys are all teammates. So, I mean, I'm assuming you guys were all communicating and everything like that. I thought you were going to go a little earlier to try to get up there and break up the father-son duo. What was the conventional wisdom heading into 10 laps left for you?
We talked it through probably every lap or so, what they thought I should do and what I thought I should do. I definitely wanted to try and bring Holloway to the top, and as soon as he got to the top, have the mains boys come up there, block, and I would take that run because I'd back off probably, car link, 2 car links, and then take that run to the inside, which is what happened, and then they dropped down, picked me up, and it made that 1, 2, 3 happen.
No, we were trying to figure out because we didn't necessarily know all of the teams to where we actually thought you were alone in that front pack, and now it makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love racing with Jason. He's such a great guy, such a stand-up guy, and his son's awesome too. Garrett, running in the Coke Series, he's taught me a lot, especially with the super speedway racing. It's always fun to come out here and race with him. It's what it's for. It's all about fun.
Yeah, and honestly, it seemed like I was thinking we were probably going to make it until probably 40 to go before we got another caution. That's not how it ended up working out, to where every time another caution came out, I was just like, well, there goes people's strategy. Time to recalculate.
Yeah, and having the first stall on the first stall on entrance for pit road is really tough under green, so I had to really baby it down there so I could stay tucked up with Jason and them. But I got pretty lucky off that last pit road entrance.
You looked extremely strong all night, man. So, I mean, you got to be feeling elated that, I mean, like you mentioned before, you grabbed that provisional to get in, and here you are sitting in third. How was the race for you, and what was the ultimate goal for you actually coming into this?
Well, I mean, every goal should be to win a race. If you accept anything less, you shouldn't be out here running. But definitely the qualifying and getting the provisional helped a ton. But me and Jason talked it over. We were just gonna stay patient. We were in the back. We knew we couldn't get up there as fast as we could, but everyone was breaking away. There was a lot of packs separated. It got me kind of nervous around 80, 90. I didn't know if we were going to get tracked down to put a lap down, but we got that caution and got that big break, and we're able to drive back to the front after that.
No, it was wonderful to see the strategy calls that you made play out, get yourself a podium, get yourself a little bit of cash in the process, but still just all I can say is apparently your mother is unbelievably excited, because I don't think anyone commented nearly as much as her throughout the course of this race.
188 laps on a YouTube account. She's probably commenting every other lap.
I gotta know. I gotta know. We found out that the mains were in the same house. Is your mom in the same house as you?
No. I'm
okay.
I'm stationed over here in Florida. She's in Texas.
Okay. What branch of service?
In the Navy.
Ah. Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
Notice the little bit of derision there from our army man.
I can't say what I would normally say on air. So
hey, my older brother was in the army, so kudos to him.
No, man, that's awesome. And I was just curious, because it'd have been funny if she'd have been yelling at you in the house at the exact same time she was commenting. That would have been hilarious. But
yeah.
Man, you had a heck of a race, and you showed a lot of resolve. So kudos to you for third, man. It was brilliantly done by you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I just want to shout out Coasting Thunder, Baker & Son Construction, MBG Motorsports. Didn't get any of my weekly teammates besides Jason and Garrett in here, but shout out to them for always supporting me. And shout out to Warriors Raps. Love the rap that I have right now. Go out and check them out, warriorsrap.com, and on Facebook, Warriors Raps. And thanks to the family watching back at home. Mom for commenting all the time. Love you. And thanks to my fiance for watching 188 laps of cars going in a circle. I don't know how she did it.
We tried to provide as much entertainment as we could, and most of the time it came at my own expense.
I'm going to go back and watch the broadcast. I know you guys put on a really good show for the duels. I loved it. I'm excited to watch this whole event again.
No,
we appreciate that, man.
Yeah, it's for the racers, but it's for the fans. And honestly, you guys put on an amazing show for us. The racing was fantastic, and we couldn't do it without you guys out there in the car.
Yeah. And thanks for the broadcast. Thanks to Robbie for putting this on. Good turnout for it being his first event. So hopefully that just grows a little bit more, and you guys get a whole week of a show, and we get to put on heats and duels and last chance qualifiers and put it all together.
I was kind of looking forward to that, but at the same time, you know what? The entertainment that we got over the two broadcasts that we had, you know what? I don't know if my heart could take much more.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys just shaved a good 5 years off my life between last yesterday and today. So
I've shaved about 15 pounds sitting in this seat.
Hey, man, congratulations, man. We hope to get to call some more races with you soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Larry and Josh.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Josh, you want to grab? Let's grab fourth place, man. Let's talk to Daniel.
Yeah, why not? We're here.
He's hanging out. Let's make sure we get to talk to these guys as much as possible, you know.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring them up. Hey, Daniel, it's Larry and Josh, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I do.
Hey,
you're here waiting. It was a fantastic fourth. You guys, that lead pack, the coordination and the gap you were able to put behind some or in front of very strong racers. What was really going through your mind as we got away from that last pit stop?
Oh my gosh. I want to say that last pit stop was crucial. That was a big pack where I pitted in right time, right moment, I guess. And then just with Steve, both mains, and then Barker when we hooked up and stuff. I felt the guys in that second pack because earlier I was in the same scenario where I was in the second pack and trying to catch up to the leader, and it's like all you can do is trying to push, but some reason we're just losing more and more ground to them. But and then at the end, it was like a vice versa roll, and I was in the top 5 and just make the move on the white flag. But I was kind of a sitting duck there. Not enough cars, but top 5 finish today. Clean car from the back of the pack to the front, and 2 big, huge wrecks that I can't believe I still don't know how I was in it.
We caught one of those miraculous moves that no idea how you pulled it off, but you did.
Oh, for sure. I was that one. I think it was the 4 car, and I know he was trying to correct himself, but he overcorrected it twice, and I was on the gas, hit the brakes on the gas, and I was playing the mirror and watching him, and luckily there was nobody behind me, but that was like, I think that my horseshoe just went out the door there.
Man, I tell you, like you said, ran a beautiful race. You had some fantastic saves, and to squeak out that 4th, I mean, it's a long race. And obviously, we made mention in the broadcast, this isn't a points race. This is kind of one of those things, all or nothing. So how is your outlook after something like that? I mean, do you, still, hey, I finished 4th and, you ran a ridiculously good race, or do you feel like it's a letdown?
Wasn't a letdown. I come in here, be in the back of the pack, and just it's a long race, and just picking them off one by one, being smart, being smooth, and my goal was, of course, at least be in the top 10. But I got top 5. Of course, you want to win it, but hey, clean Ford Mustang car on this Hershey Kisses Reese's Cup car. A lot of horsepower in this baby. I was stuck between the Chevys, so I was trying to hopefully call the Ford manufacturer to get me somebody to help me, but I couldn't do it.
As somebody that runs the Mustang himself, it's the right call.
Yeah, for sure. I work at a Ford dealership too, so it was pretty interesting. I hesitated on that last lap going into 3, going in the inside, and I don't know if I would have had something for mains or not, because I know those 2 would be glued. If I went to the inside, maybe that would have changed the outcome, but if we had another checker flag line and almost turned 1, I think I would have gotten second the way the run came.
Yeah, it was a massive run from the back group, but just not enough time to the line.
One more lap.
Well, I'd tell you one thing. I definitely be happy with what you did, because I mean that was just an amazing race. But we didn't know, but apparently, because I was wondering when Matthew Baker was going to go. We thought Matthew Baker was by himself out there. So we thought we might see him make a move earlier, just to find out he was a teammate to the main. So, I don't know if you could have really done much more. I mean, was there any thought that you might have been able to get out there by yourself and do some side drafting? Obviously, the side drafting these cars is ridiculous. Was that a thought process at all?
Yeah, that was a little bit when as soon as I made the move on Steve, which he ran out of fuel. I know he was talking about it during the race. He was maybe 3 or 4 tenths short, but I was going to make the move anyways, and I know Baker was going to come with me. And then when we got to the back stretch, it felt like the car didn't. I sucked up to him, and then I was kind of glued. It's like it didn't go anywhere, but I just didn't make the move when Matthew went underneath me, and I don't think he was a teammate with them. Just 3rd and 4th place. He made the right move. I just hesitated at the last second, and I would have done the same thing, vice versa, if he was 3rd and I was 4th in that bore. But it was fun, especially him and I being in the back of the pack and coming up to the front like that.
Oh, he was a teammate. He confirmed that. They both, they all,
okay.
they all confirmed that. Because like I said, we thought he was by himself. I was like, man, if I was him, I'd just go. Like 10 laps to go. What do you have to lose? And then when we talked to him, they're like, yeah, Matthew Baker, our teammate, and I was like, oh, well,
that solves it. But it's anything. So I had a few out there, but they. A couple of them, one of them blew his engine, and one of them somehow, I guess he got too hot in the engine, and his engine was hurting a little bit. That was my other teammate out there that had the same paint scheme, so it was a vice versa one. Then the other two just that last pit stall I think hurt them. One overshot and one got speeding. So I was like, I'm just gonna finish where I finish, and hopefully anything can happen.
No, it was a great run, and I have to commend everyone for being able to handle 107 or 88 laps. I have to be in the booth because you know what? I need to take breaks. But being able to keep everything together for that long, still come away in the top 5, it was a great run.
It sure was. Towards the end, I felt like the last 20 laps, my foot was numb on that gas pedal. But, mind over matter, and it just kept on going. But great race today. A lot of respect out there for all these guys. I thought maybe a little bit more cautions out there, but ended up not really. And just kudos to everybody, this top 40 guys as far as out there that raced today. And put on a good show for you guys, and some 3-wide, 4-wide scenarios. Hopefully it was a pretty darn good broadcasting race for you guys.
It was brilliant. You guys kept it interesting throughout the weekend. I'm looking forward to further races and seeing everybody back out on track. I've got a few people that I'm going to be kind of tracking on iRacing to see how much better you guys are than me, because that is a certainty.
For sure. Yeah, there's a few nights I race on super speedways, and got a few championships in that one, and one in a different league. So it's not easy, that's for sure.
Man, it was a fantastic race. Anybody you want to thank?
Oh yeah, I'd like to thank. There's a couple of teams out there that I run with. Candy Shack out there. Thanks again, Acres, for the paint scheme on that one. Team Alliance, I know those guys were watching out there. Rick, Mark, Logan, and Jim. Congrats on the little one. The host in here, Robert, for putting on this event and everything. And you guys up in the booth, and I'm gonna watch this race after the cookout today. And everybody who was all watching, I know I had family out there watching, my wife, sisters, and just everybody who was all watching out there, and thanks for tuning in.
Awesome. Thank you very much for a great race. Go off, enjoy your cookout, and know that I'm jealous of that one.
Sounds good. Might get that Blackstone out.
There you go, man. Have a good one.
Take care.
All right, that's going to do it for us here at Ghostfire Media. One last round of major thanks to RC2 Race Promotions for putting this one on, 5-Star Realty Group for being the title sponsor for the race, Kelly's Custom Engraving for throwing out a beautiful trophy for our winner, Jason Maines, and everyone out there that watched throughout the course of the day, over the course of the weekend, and the biggest shout out to all of our drivers for putting on a fantastic show. Anything from you, Larry?
No, man, you hit everything on the head. You hit the nail on the head perfectly. Fantastic weekend, fantastic race, man. Had an absolute blast, man. And hopefully we get to call some more of these, and it was a good time overall.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on Ghostfire Media. Have yourself a great rest of your Sunday. a great 4th of July. Thank your veterans for everything that they do, and have yourself a good day.
Thank you for watching iRacing on the Ghostfire Media Network.